Good afternoon. It is Friday, October 16th, 2020. I'd like to call this meeting to order. It's a virtual regular meeting of the Commissioners of the City of Rehoboth Beach. It is 2:01 p.m. I'd like to do the roll call first to identify all the commissioners. Commissioner Jay Legree.
Here.
Commissioner Patrick Gossett.
Here.
Commissioner Susan Gay.
Here.
Commissioner Richard Byrne.
Here.
Commissioner Pat Caluzzi.
Here.
Commissioner Ed Stranowski.
Here.
And Mayor Stan Mills is here. We have a quorum, so we can conduct business at this meeting. Also in attendance and on camera is City Manager Sharon Lynn and City Solicitor Glenn Mandalis. Welcome to everybody. We have a fair number of people that have signed up to speak, and you'll be allowed to speak and share your perspectives at each topic. We're going to move on to correspondence relating to agenda items only. We have correspondence from resident John Dewey, Sturgis Dodge, and Suzanne Good. And we'll hear those bits of correspondence during each appropriate topic. I want to come next to approval of the minutes. We have 5 sets of minutes that we're going to be voting on to approve tonight. And those 5 sets of minutes are the following. Executive session held on October 7th, 2020. Special meetings held on July 14th, July 28th, October 5th, and October 7th, all in 2020. Now, the only commissioners that will be voting on the minutes are commissioners that attended those meetings. Are there any corrections to any of those 5 sets of minutes? If not,
Mayor,
then,
I move approval.
well, we have to do them in different sets there, Commissioner Byrne. Let me say this. After I speak, I'll have a motion to approve the minutes of July 14th and July 28th, special meetings for both. And voting on those minutes will be Commissioners Caluzzi, Stranowski, Byrne, and Gay. Now you can entertain a motion.
I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the special meeting minutes of both July 14th and July 28th, 2020. All those that were in attendance signify by saying aye to approve.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
And those in attendance signify no. So the minutes are approved unanimously. Thank you very much. The next sets of minutes, 3 sets of minutes, are for a special meeting October 5th, 2020, special meeting October 7th, 2020, and executive session October 20, all 2020, I'm sorry. And all the commissioners present today are allowed to make a motion, second, and vote on that. Do I have a motion to approve those 3 sets of minutes?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the 3 sets of minutes as I noted. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? And the minutes, 3 sets of minutes I noted are approved unanimously. Thank you very much. City Manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, Commissioners. We have 1 street aid expenditure to Delmarva Power for streetlights in the amount of $9,028.10.
I need a motion to approve.
Second.
And we have a motion and a second to approve the payment of the Delmarva Power bill in the amount of $9,028.10. All those in approval signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? And the Delmarva Power bill for September is approved. Thank you very much. We'll move on to, yes, ma'am.
I do have additional.
Commissioner.
Thank you. Regarding the citywide street paving program, ADEL construction will be starting preparation work for paving the week of October 26th. The milling and overlay of the existing surface are scheduled to begin in early November, and the project is scheduled for completion at the end of November. Just a reminder, the streets identified for paving this year: Sussex Street from Columbia Avenue to Fifth Street, Lake Avenue from Second Street to Surf Avenue, and Stokely Street from Hickman Street to Scarborough Avenue. Regarding the Lake Avenue Streetscape Improvements Project Phase 2, the contractor is working on curbs and sidewalks on the west side of Second Street. And we'll have an update for this project later on in this meeting by the Director of Public Works, Mr. Kevin Williams. A bid advertisement was sent out this week for the FY fiscal year 21 water meter replacement program, and this is for the replacement of approximately 100 water meters in the Breezewood area. A pre-bid meeting will be held next week on October 22nd, and also advertised this week was a bid for the Delaware Avenue Comfort Station Improvements Project. That pre-bid meeting will be held October 19th. Just to remind the commissioners, these two items from this year's CIP were freed up, if you will, and placed back into the operating budget for the CIP expenses. Just wanted to take a few minutes to advise you and the public that we have a police officer who's actually now in place and working at the elementary school. He's a school resource officer. Officer Robert Sisko is about a month into the school year, working at Rehoboth Elementary School. He's been acquainted with many of the students and staff at the school. The students enjoy seeing an officer around the school and often stop to ask them questions or just tell them about their day. Officer Sisko has given several getting to know your school resource officer presentations at the school. This month he's focused on discussion with students and staff about a society the students are creating and how to protect its citizens. Keeping our young people safe and healthy is a prime motivator for all of us, and I'd like to thank Chief Banks and certainly Officer Sisko for volunteering to head up this program, very important program that I myself encouraged Chief Banks to develop, and this is a great program. Chief, do you have anything you wanted to add?
We're very thankful and appreciate the support of the city manager and the mayor and commissioners just for allowing us to do that. It's been very positive so far. I've received several correspondences from the principal as well as teachers, how well it's been going. Not only that, this officer goes outside to try to follow up on some of the students that aren't showing up or having trouble to get on the computer and things. So it's been very positive so far.
Thank you. Also, we have a second free flu clinic coming up on Thursday, November 5th. That will be in the Convention Center parking lot from 1 to 5 p.m. And the clinic is for those 18 years of age and older. And that's my report, Mayor.
Thank you, City Manager Sharon Lynn. Next on our agenda is City Solicitor's report.
There's a quick update on some of the pending litigation items. We had 3 FOIA petitions that were pending. We filed, the city has filed its response to each of those petitions. Now we're just in a kind of a waiting game for the Department of Justice to make a decision on them. The 30th of this month, a brief is due in the Ocean Baymark case, so that will be loaded to the website shortly after it's filed. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Glenn. Next is departmental reports. There have been no oral reports identified from the departments. You will see embedded in the agenda are building and licensing reports and the police department report for September 20th. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, excuse me. Before you go on, I have something to add.
Okay, back to Sharon.
Okay, thank you. We also have a additional street aid expenditure for the month of October. to Delmarva Power for streetlights in the amount of $8,927.03.
I move
have a
approval.
Motion to approve,
Second.
and we have a motion to approve and a second, to approve the Delmarva Power bill, for October 15th in the amount of $8,927.03. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, and the power bill is approved unanimously. Thank you very much. All righty. We'll move on to board and commission reports. There have been no oral reports identified. You will notice that the Planning Commission report for October is embedded in the agenda. They have been a regular contributor of written reports. Starting this month and next month, I'm having the Board of Adjustment do a written report to embed in the agenda, and for next month, we'll have the Parks and Shade Tree Commission embed written reports on a monthly basis, so we can kind of get an idea of the work they're doing on a monthly basis. With that, I'm going to move to committee reports. The two that have identified to give oral reports are the Mayor's Advisory Committee on Trees and then the Law Oversight Committee. So we'll go to Commissioner Gay first.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. First of all, I'm very pleased to hear that we're going to have monthly reports from the Board of Adjustment and Parks and Shade Tree in addition to planning. I think that's great. And it was good to read the Board of Adjustment one this month. So thank you for adding that. This is going to be a very short update about the Mayor's Advisory Committee on Trees, because I mostly want to update you on the meeting we had on Friday, the 9th, last Friday. And it's actually a two-part presentation. Later on in the meeting, when we're talking about committees and committee missions, you'll see that embedded in the agenda is my proposal for a name change of this committee. That also came out of our meeting last Friday, but I'm going to save that for the broader committee topic and just give you an update now on the few priorities that we talked about at our meeting last Friday. First of all, the meeting that we had on October 9th is the first time that the group has gotten together, has met since February. So we had a lot to catch up on. And among the priorities for the coming year are going to be publicizing and continuing the Commemorative Tree Program, which was launched last fall and has been very successful. We've planted about 50 trees with contributions from the public. So that is a very successful program, and we need to continue, publicizing it and because it's ongoing. We also talked about Arbor Day, which of course was completely missed this year due to the pandemic. Arbor Day is April 30th, 2021. We don't know yet how we're going to celebrate that because we don't know what our status will be vis-a-vis the COVID at that point, but we are looking ahead. We talked a great deal about programs. The program that we did in the fall of I guess, last year with Doug Talamay was so successful that the idea then was to have other programs in the future on related topics. But clearly we're in a mode now where if we do that, we would have to do them by Zoom. And what came out of the discussion was that one of the things that people might find useful is for us to be the curators of really good lectures and programs and content that are out there from any number of sources, including some state resources as well as ones from other states. So we are looking at creating basically an educational program where we can provide links to the public. And then the last thing is that we know, I informed the group that we would be discussing the tree ordinance, I think starting at the workshop in December, and our committee members are very enthusiastic about being a part of that and weighing in on specific suggestions and questions about the ordinance. That's all I have.
Thank you, Susan. Any questions for Susan? If not, the Law Oversight Committee asked to give an oral report. Hoyt Decker, are you on board? Hoyt, I'm sorry, apparently you're not connected well, or we certainly can't hear you. So we're gonna have to pass you. Oh, say something again.
That's me, Mayor. While we're waiting for Hoyt to catch up, I had requested a brief report from the Environmental Committee and from the Animal Issues Committee.
Yes, you did. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. I believe that Charlie Garlow is on and is prepared to give a brief report for the Environment Committee. Charlie, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Go right
Yes, I
ahead,
am,
please.
Commissioner Byrne. Good. This is Charlie Garlow speaking. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we're fine. Go ahead, Charlie.
Great. Thank you for this opportunity to give you a quick oral update about some of the projects and plans and thoughts the Environment Committee has been having and will have in the future. We certainly appreciate the fact that you have allowed us to meet and make recommendations to the Board of Commissioners. We endeavor to do so with projects that will be very inexpensive or cost the city nothing for all of our ideas. As you may know, you all have been very gracious in hearing the proposals of our committee on 5G and wireless communication facilities. We really do appreciate the time that you have turned to hear some of the complex proposals on that topic, and hopefully it'll be resolved shortly. We also have been discussing the idea of plastics products that are single-use throwaway things like plastic straws, plastic bags, all of which can make the land ugly, but also get into the ocean and hurt our marine creature friends as well. We'll be making recommendations on that when we hope in the near future. We're also interested in having a climate action plan or sustainability action plan, which would address the sorts of projects that would help us to address climate change, just as have done our neighbors to the north in Newark, Delaware, and other places. We've been gathering information from officials up that way, as well as for the plastics products and the 5G. We always like to be able to invite other experts from near or far away to advise us, to educate us on these topics. The last of our projects that I might mention to you is the idea that we would like to do some more research and make a proposal, probably mostly educational, but also hands-on, regarding gardens and pollinators. Bees, butterflies, and other pollinators are vital to the world's economy, and those creatures are suffering. So if we can make Rehoboth into a butterfly capital of the East, that would be a terrific thing we might be able to add. And we could do so by planting gardens and trees and other things that are friendly to pollinators. We certainly be glad to work with and in cooperation with the Trees Committee. But we've got some ideas of our own, and we're happy to work with them if they desire. So that sort of wraps it up for me. Commissioner Byrne, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, thank you, Charlie. Just a couple of quick comments. Regarding 5G, I think everyone's aware that the mayor gave us kind of marching orders after the last long discussion that we had that I think kind of pulled it together in terms of a timeline that makes good sense for us going forward. And the city manager has worked with her team and with the legal folks and has come back with some responses to the Environmental Committee recommendations. Environmental Committee is looking at those. I've gone through that list. It all makes pretty good sense to me. So I think we're on track to meet the mayor's timeline on that and to work closely with the city manager. The other item in terms of single-use plastic ban, we are working closely with Carol Eberhardt and the Chamber Board in terms of moving this at a pace that makes sense for our local businesses. And right now, given the fact that so many businesses are struggling, we've realized this is not the time to bring a full proposal to the Board of Commissioners, but we are looking forward to that down the line when it does seem to make sense in terms of full cooperation from most of our businesses. We're also waiting to see what the state of Delaware does with the current January 1, 2021 plastic bag ban. That's scheduled to go into effect January 1 for the larger retail outlets across the state. Royal Farms is probably the only one in the city of Rehoboth Beach, but I'm not positive how they'll rule on some others. That may or may not be put off given the current state of the COVID pandemic. So just a little update.
Thank you very much, Dick. What other committees have I forgotten?
Yeah, a
Boardwalk
couple of quick
committee?
comments from the animal
Go
issues, if I
ahead.
may.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. We had, our city had a relatively quiet summer. I've gone through the police department reports. Thank you, Chief Banks, and very, very few problems with dogs and cats and so on. The occasional dog issue on the beach or the boardwalk, and our police handled that very, very well. We had great cooperation again this summer from the Tri-State Bird Rescue Group in terms of their efforts with both our lifeguards and with the police when there's been problems with birds and seagulls and so on. Committee members have been somewhat busy in recent weeks. We kind of closed out the summer with a couple of pregnant feral cats in a portion of the city. The homeowner at 95 Sussex gave us a heads up about 6 or 8 weeks ago of kittens on his property. To date, the mama cat has been trapped and spayed and given shots and let go back in the neighborhood. All 4 of the kittens have been trapped. 3 were adoptable and went off to adoption. 1 got a little older before that we caught it just about a week ago, and that kitten is beyond adoptability. So that kitten will be let back in the neighborhood once it's spayed or neutered and given vaccinations. There was also a mama cat on Henlopen Avenue across from Grove Park in the cemetery area. One kitten there was caught and went immediately into adoption. And the mama cat, as far as we know, is still on the loose. Although we haven't had a report for a while, we are continuing to trap on a regular basis. That program, by the way, the Trap Neuter Release Program, is a cooperative program with Brandywine Valley SPCA, who funds the entire program. There are no city dollars. It's all done by volunteers and expenses paid out of our local SPCA. And so just a reminder, when you or your neighbors or you get a call that somebody has seen what they think is either a lost or a feral cat, come to Bob Harrison, come to Marcia Maldies, or come to me, and we will set the process up to attempt to figure out that situation. This summer, an initial call went into City Hall, and unbeknownst to 1 or 2 of our employees, they followed through by calling a wildlife trapper. And that is not what we want to have happen. We've got a system in place and full cooperation from SPCA. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Dick. One of our speakers has a time constraint, so I'd like to jump forward and then we'll come back and finish the committee reports. And that is to skip to the liaison for the Chamber of Commerce. Give Susan Gay the opportunity and or Carol to speak.
Carol is on the line and I'd like her to give us an update.
All right, Carol.
Okay. Well, first, thank you, Mr. Byrne. You reported that absolutely perfectly with regard to the business community and their willingness to work on a plan with the bags and other recyclables. However, timing is everything in this case. The only update that I have is that with regard to occupancy, you might be interested to know that we pretty much matched overall weekend occupancy in the hotels and motels the last 2 weeks of August through most of September. This last weekend, it was down slightly. Don't know why. And Rehoboth was at 76% occupancy. And unless you have questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions for Carol? If not, thank you, Carol. And we'll go back to committee reports. Were there any other committees that wanted to give an oral report?
The Boardwalk and Beach Committee will be meeting for the first time on the 19th of October. Our agenda has been posted as well as the embeds, so take a look, and we'll be filing a regular report next month.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anybody else? If not, we'll skip back
Hello.
ahead to the, I'm
Hello.
sorry.
Oh, it sounds like Hoyt's on.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Hoyt, I can't
Greetings.
see you there. Yes,
I-
sir.
I need some remedial training with this system. Well, first of all, forgive me. I signed up for this afternoon's session purposely for the latter agenda item concerning review of commissions and committees and whatnot. So I actually don't have an oral report for you for the Law Oversight Committee today.
Okay, we'll look forward to your comments later on in the program. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we'll finish up the liaison reports from the Rehoboth Beach Historical Society.
Thank you, Mayor. As most of us know, the Horse Historical Society has been making oral histories, interviews with notable people for quite a long time. And those have been transcribed into hard copy. But now the museum director, Alexander, tells me that they're going to make videos with pictures, and these oral histories will come alive. And I just can't wait. I love the dioramas. I love the conversations, but I'm really looking forward to the oral histories. And I just encourage everybody to check the website, and they're going to post them on the website, and I'm really looking forward to it. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Senior Center?
Really not an update from last time. The Senior Center is open, operating 3 days a week with very limited hours due to COVID, and continuing to do a number of virtual classes. And that'll continue on into the future.
Thank you, Commissioner. Main Street Liaison is Commissioner Chernowski, and we've got Dan Slagle and Greer Manival of the Main Street signed up to speak as well.
Yeah, Mayor, I'll defer to Greer Manival and Dan Slagle. Thank you.
All right. Give your, Dan and Greer, if you would, when you speak, give your title to identify yourself, please.
Thank you, Mayor, City Manager, and Commissioners. My name is Dan Slagle, Executive Director of Rehoboth Beach Main Street. And I wanted to give some updates from Rehoboth Beach Main Street. We're working with SBDC of Delaware, the Small Business Development Center, is partnering up with Rehoboth Main Street to create a survey that will define what the businesses need. From this survey, there will be two directions a business may need. We're working towards individuals, such as, working with them on loan restructuring, CARES Act help, financial checkups, examining changing the business models, and grant opportunities. Also, we're going to provide training, maybe some specific areas such as marketing, e-commerce, and cyber security. So these are some of the items we want to work with some of the businesses downtown. We'll define the needs and we'll help find resources to fill those needs. Also, this coming weekend, we had the Jazz Festival. So Rehoboth Main Street is utilizing our social media, email blast to promote these upcoming events. The Jazz Festival, we're really looking forward to it, is going to be all weekend long. They're going to do live stream of the concerts. They're inviting guests to enjoy, turn up the volume on your screens. A lot of the businesses are hiring jazz bands to play, advertising through social media. Also, tomorrow morning at 11 a.m., we're giving out our Cottage and Town Awards at 11 a.m. here at Rehoboth Beach Main Street. Everyone's welcome to come by. The four categories that the Cottage and Town Awards are being presented to is for residential, renovation and restoration, and preservation. So also residential new construction. We have commercial renovation and architectural. So we're really excited. We also have the Cape Gazette attending and a reporter from WRDE that will be covering the event. So everyone is welcome to attend. Also, we're working on some ideas to help the businesses downtown through November. Instead of having Small Business Saturday, We're going to have small business Saturdays through the month of November, for every Saturday in November. This will help promote the businesses. Our campaign is to include the faces of downtown, some of the favorite things to do in downtown Rehoboth. I'm working with American Express to get more signage to provide for the businesses downtown. So, we get people downtown. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Does Greer want to say something?
I just want to say that we're really looking forward to all the new things that will be coming up for Main Street this fall. I think it's going to be a tremendous effort to not only reach out to the businesses, but to reach out to the residents to partner with us to help promote the whole town.
Thank you, Greer. Would you identify your position with Main Street for us, please?
Yes, thank you. I apologize. Greer Manival, I'm the president of the board of Main Street.
Great, thank you. Thank you both for participating today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If there's no questions by the commissioners, we'll move on to the next item of business, which is a permit of compliant hearing. It's a request by Bobby Lab of BCG Management, LLC, as a change in the name of the restaurant from G to Sussex Public House, to modify the floor plan of an existing restaurant serving alcoholic beverages with a patio pursuant to Municipal Code Chapter 215 Restaurants and Section 270-19 Use Restrictions, Restaurants, Patios. The restaurant and patio is located at 234 Rehoboth Avenue. I want to make sure that Bobby, you're here and available to speak.
I am, thank you.
Very good. We hear you loud and clear. Thank you very much. So right now, I'm going to turn this over to the city solicitor. He typically advises us of the purpose and process and identifies submitted documentation.
Thank you, Mayor. This permit of compliance is before you because it's the transfer of an existing restaurant that sells alcohol to transfers that include modifications to floor plans, which this one does, come before the commissioners for a new permit of compliance hearing. Today, as you hear this application, commissioners, the code gives guidance as to what you're to consider while hearing this application. So this comes from section 215-5B, and these are, it says, in reaching their decision, the commissioners shall consider the following factors, including but not limited to: first, whether the applicant has demonstrated that the establishment's primary purpose will be that of a restaurant or dinner theater as defined in this chapter. Second, whether the establishment meets all the city's applicable zoning and licensing provisions. Third, whether the establishment would be a detriment to the peace, order, and quiet of the neighborhood and the city. Fourth, whether the establishment will have an adverse impact on the neighboring properties or on the city of Rehoboth Beach, considering the impact on traffic, parking, and noise. Fifth, whether the applicant has made any false representation or statements to the city's employees or the commissioners in order to induce or prevent action by the city, not only in regard to the pertinent pending application of this chapter, but also in regard to the issuance of a building permit or business license for the subject establishment. In your packets, commissioners, you have certain records, and they include, first, the public notice of this application. It was posted on September 28th, 2020, sent to all residents within 200 feet. It was published in the Cape Gazette on Friday, October 2nd, published in the Coast Press on Wednesday, October 2nd, published in the Delaware State News on Thursday, October 1st. Next, you have a report from the Chief Building Inspector dated September 30th, 2020, which we'll deliver in a moment. Next, you have an application for permit of compliance. It's stamped received by the City Secretary on September 15, 2020. The application is completed and signed by Bobby Goulet. And there's an indication that the fee has been paid. Next, there's an email from Bobby Goulet to the City Secretary Ann Womack on October 7, 2020. The email is indicating that the Alcohol Commission approved a floor plan with removable seats. Attached to that email were a couple floor plans. One is marked without entertainment, 103 dining, 10 parking. Also received October 2nd. The second is marked with entertainment, and then indicating 87 dining seats and 10 bars seats, and that was also received October 2nd. Also in your packet, you have a sample menu received by the city secretary on July 21st, and then 2 more floor plans with an indication at a next floor plan with an indication at the bottom, handwritten, 13 bar stools, 123 seats, 34 tables. Purposes of identification, this is also stamped in the upper right-hand corner, February 21st, 2017. And then in the bottom right, it says approved, 8/13/14, TBS, looks like initials, probably Terry Sullivan, the former building official. Next, you have a floor plan that indicates the floor plan with seats on the dance floor / lounge area. It was received by the Office of the City Secretary on September 28, 2020. And then finally, a very similar floor plan, but this one marked plan with no seats on the dance floor / lounge area for events. Also stamped September 28, being received by the City Secretary. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have the building inspector's report. Sharon?
Sorry.
We have,
I'm here, Mr. Mayor.
get the building inspector's report next.
Yes, thank you.
Inspector, yes. Matt?
Can you hear me?
Yes, Matt.
Wonderful. Okay. I'd like to preface this by saying that this was written by Dom. He was not here. He's away for some medical leave. However, I'm very familiar with the project, so I can speak to it. This is an application for a modification of an existing floor plan to co-locate permanent seated dining in a pre-existing dance floor area pursuant to section 215-11 modification of floor plan. The establishment is to operate under the new name Sussex Public House. The restaurant previously operated as G Rehoboth, formerly G Cask and Kitchen. The following is a complete report for the application referenced above to be heard. Pursuant to section 215-3, the applicant is Bobby Gullub, 24709 Betts Pond Road, Millsboro, Delaware, 19966. The name of the restaurant shall be Sussex Public House. The style is lunch and dinner. The restaurant will be operated 7 days a week from 10 a.m. to 1 a.m. The restaurant location is 234 Rehoboth Avenue, Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. Pursuant to the plans submitted, the following is true. The property is located at 234 Rehoboth Avenue. The property is owned by 234 Rehoboth Avenue LLC, located at 3607 Abingdon Street, Arlington, Virginia, 22207. The parcel ID is 334-14.17-319.00. Part of lot number 84, 86 Rehoboth Beach CP Management Association. The owner of the business entity is BCG Management, 234 Rehoboth Avenue, Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, 19971. The structure is 1 story with permanent seated dining, dance floor, and outdoor eating patio in a C1 central commercial zoning district. Pursuant to section 270-13C 3D, a restaurant serving alcoholic beverages is a permitted use. The following is a list of restaurant areas, both existing and proposed. The service area, kitchen facilities, storage, restrooms, employee stations, hallways, and utilities. Existing is 926 square feet. The proposed is 926 square feet. The dining area listed here as existing is 721.625 square feet. The proposed is 1,132 square feet. With the addition, if permitted, would be the 410.375 square feet of the additional dance floor, if permitted to remove seating or keep the seating. The permanent seated dining area is 77 square feet and 93 square feet is proposed. I'll have to check that. I'll have to verify those numbers. I do apologize for that. The bar area, 420 square feet of that is going to be dance floor. And bar area is 420 square feet. The dance floor area is 410.375 square feet. So the existing and proposed are both the same at 830.375 square feet. Again, it's dependent on whether tables are permitted to be put in that area. The bar seats are 10 and the proposed are 10. The restaurant gross floor area is consistent. They're not adding any square footage to it, so it's 2,478 square feet. Again, the ratio of bar to permanent seated dining is dependent on the allowance of the seats. Existing would be 12.98%, and the proposed, if allowed, would be 10.8%. Pursuant to section 215-1 definitions, there is a patio area of 570 square feet with 20 seats defined at section 270-19A 1B, not included as part of the permanent seated dining area or part of the bar area. The patio area is enclosed with accessible entry from the bar area and exit to Wilmington Avenue. And in my own research, I did see, I wondered if the patio was originally or previously permitted. It's important to note that the certificate of compliance for patios is supplemental. The requirement did not come in till around 2016. This patio existed 2010. So it's a grandfathering, if you will, not needed to move forward for the permit, the supplemental permit. The most recent application prior to this was in 2017 that did not trigger that supplemental patio compliance report. The designated areas for proposed food storage and preparation are shown and labeled on the attached plan. Refuge storage, which is not shown on the plan, is at the rear of the building on Wilmington Avenue. The distance to the nearest property lines of the nearest church, public park, and residential lot are as follows. Westminster Presbyterian Church, 301 King Charles Avenue, 0.51 miles. Martin's Lawn, 25 feet by way of straight line. Residential lots zoned R1 behind building on Philadelphia Street. The applicant has stated the approximate percentage of revenue between the sale of alcohol and food is 25% alcohol and 75% food. Authorization for the city to investigate is attached. Written and dated declaration by the applicant is attached, and the fee of $1,000 has appeared to have been paid.
Thank you, Matthew. Any questions by the commissioners?
Yes.
Commissioner Coluzzi?
I have two things. One is I was confused by that permanent seated dining of 77 square feet. That must be some sort of a mistake, Matt.
It's some sort of typo that I will have to re-verify. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, I would like that verified in order for us to, make a motion on this particular permit of compliance. I think we should know that information. Secondly is I just want to raise the concern of the trash receptacles or dumpsters that are behind the building that currently are not screened. I went by there today and they're not screened and they need to be screened. I'm hopeful that there is some solution for that. I will tell you, and I brought this up several months ago prior to COVID, but I will reacquaint some of the people who were not on commission at the time. I was trying to move forward with an idea of what's known as Wilmington Avenue Extended, which many of us know is the alley behind the restaurant. We were looking at trying to do some sort of centralized dumpsters for the businesses, restaurants, excluding Dos Locos because of their location, and they are pretty adequately screened at this point, I think. But in any case, there was a potential solution. I would like to see that continue to move forward. But in the meantime, I do believe that that I would like the restaurateur to let us know what his plans are for screening dumpsters that are in the back of the building.
Well, Commissioner, you could also, this permit of compliance could also be conditioned on certain parameters, and screening of trash could possibly be one of them. Thank you. Dick, anybody else want to comment? I also have concerns about the data under permanent seated dining area, 77 square feet existing and 93 proposed. If there were enough time, I would send this back to the drawing board rather than proceed. But I think that I hate to do that, and so perhaps if you would consider, if somebody makes a motion, that when that time comes, that it be conditioned upon these figures being updated accurately, and that the ratios fall within the parameters of the city code. Would that be acceptable, Glenn?
It would be.
May I make a comment?
Who's talking?
Bobby Gulab.
Oh, yes. Well, we're going to get to you in 1 minute, Bobby.
Okay, because I can
Any
clarify
other
that when you do.
Any other commissioners? Glenn?
Commissioner Goffin has his hand up. Let's let him go.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to finish with the commissioners, and then we'll get to you, Dr. Bobby.
Just a couple of questions on this. With regards to the patio permit of compliance, would this not be the time that to trigger a patio permit of compliance for the patio if it's a change in ownership? I thought when we rewrote the restaurant code at that time that was one of the targets that we were trying to do, so that they could be looked at as two different issues if there were violations or anything of that nature. And the grandfathering, I'm not sure on.
So can I comment on that? Because I actually had a question for Matt as well. I think what I heard Matt say is that an application in 2017 did trigger a permit of compliance for the patio. I don't recall it personally, so I wanted to have Matt comment on that again. And then I also was wondering, is there a change in the patio from what it was to what it's going to be? Because certainly that would certainly trigger a new permit of compliance. We wouldn't even have to talk about grandfathering. So Matt, if you're still on, are you able to respond to those couple of questions?
Certainly, Glenn, thank you. So I'm looking at the 2017 application that came through. It was just a general letter and listed things such as interior and exterior paint, cosmetic changes to the bar, new light fixtures throughout, removal of booths at front right entrance, and removal of planters on patio. It could have very well been that the patio could have been triggered at that point, but was perhaps missed in building and licensing. But I do agree that as we go forward, this with change of ownership would definitely have to consider the supplemental for that patio area for sure.
May I just add, it's actually not a change of ownership.
We'll get to you in a minute, I promise.
Okay.
Well, Glenn, my expectation when I got this is that it's starting over from square one. You have to have the standard permit of compliance and then the supplemental permit of compliance.
So sure, Mayor, let me comment on that if I could. So what triggered this coming before the commissioners is the modification of the floor plan. Under the current restaurant code, if the floor plan is considered to not be a substantial modification, it would not need to come to the commissioners. So I think that you're going to hear testimony that this is not a change of ownership. So it wasn't a change of ownership that triggered this coming before you. It was a modification of the floor plan. And that's why I asked the question about the patio, because arguably if there's not a change in floor plan to the patio, if there was a permit on the patio, the permit would not need to be reissued because there's no modification of that plan. There's a modification certainly of the internal here, so that requires a permit. But just sort of thinking out loud, since the application is before you, you have all the materials. It was properly noticed as also including a patio. I don't think it hurts for good measure to look at both the internal space and the patio and issue both permits, so our file has both permits in it, so should you decide to issue the permits of compliance.
Thank you. Any questions, further questions by the commissioners? Commissioner
I do.
Gossett. And then,
I also
I'm sorry,
for-
go ahead.
It says, I guess for Mr. Janis, there seems to be multiple sets of floor plans. And I'm just curious to know which ones would go on file with the city. There seems to be ones that were approval through the ABCC, and then there are more formal plans that are also accompanying this. And also, I'm not quite sure as to, I thought the process was that we would issue a permit of compliance, and then ABCC would look at the application, if you will, to see that we have issued a permit of compliance and then make a decision based on that. But it seems like there's already been an authorization from ABCC on a floor plan that's different than maybe the one that's attached to the application. So just help me understand which is a clear path for interpretation.
Thank you, Commissioner. So it does appear that there may have been a premature submittal to the state for the liquor license here. Hence why you see multiple copies of floor plans for this. It would be my suggestion that we take the floor plans that were submitted with the original permit of compliance submission, as that's what we inspected and investigated to. So seeing these accepted floor plans from the ABCC, we did not inspect these, nor did we approve these or send these forth to approval, so to speak. So I don't know that these should be considered, and I think it's more important to stick with what was originally submitted September 15th.
Okay.
So which ones are those, Matt? We have floor plans dated September 28th that they were drawn with computer assisted drafting equipment. Then there's hand-drawn ones on different dates. So, but none of them are marked September 15, I guess is my point.
Yeah, certainly, Glenn. Sorry for that. Billing and licensing does apologize for this. There seemed to be, so I have September 28th would have been 2 drawings with scale indicators on there in a landscape configuration. And what was submitted September 15th with the packet would have been in a portrait type orientation with no scale to it.
Okay.
And then
so I don't see this. I don't see the September 15 ones. Are they hand drawn or are they drawn with CAD?
They are CAD drawn, and they seem to be. They're a little bit more exclusive. The September 15th are. The September 28th actually show the kitchen and storage area. So the September 8th, the September 28th drawings are a much more complete document.
September 28th.
Yes, I have it 28th. He's saying there's dated September 15. They look similar to this, but they're dated September 15, and I don't see them.
Glenn, these may not have been included, as they may have been corrected. They may have been. I don't know the events leading up to the different submissions of these floor plans, but it appears to me that maybe Dom pushed back and said, let's get these corrected because I need to show the storage areas and the kitchen areas. So you may not have received the September 15th ones.
Okay, but maybe the applicant will clear that up when you get in there.
Okay.
And also,
Patrick, go ahead and finish up, and then we've got Commissioner Srnowski would like to speak.
Sure, and I'm just back to the patio in essence, and there's also a floor plan that I have in my packet dated February 21st, 2017.
Right.
Okay, and there's an indication handwritten on there at the patio that says new walls ? So is that, could we interpret that as a change in the patio? Or I'm just, again, trying to be clear so that there's not a wrong interpretation going forward.
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner. I do have that copy here in front of me. That new wall, I believe, it appears it's a much older drawing. Those new walls are not new walls. They are existing, and they have been even from the first onset of this permit of compliance when we did our investigation. They were existing, I believe, in 2017. So whereas they do call them new walls, I believe that it just translated at that time from old drawings from that submittal. So it is a little muddy, I do apologize. But those areas are existing and there are no new walls proposed for this permit.
Okay, and I guess my other question in this is the aspect of permanent seating or dining room seating in the bar area, and then time you can have it and time you can't have it. Are there other restaurants or establishments in the city that offer that option or have that availability to them?
As a permitted use, no, sir.
So I guess that's my question is are we trying to permit this as a use, or is that the request, or?
The request is that the applicant wishes to use as an on and off kind of scenario. Building and licensing and the inspectors don't have an answer to that. It would be up to the commissioners to approve or deny that request.
So this depending, it does not, then this action does not permanently cease to operate that bar area and change it to permanently to dining. It's asking to have the ability to go one way or the other depending on the needs of the restaurant?
That's what it appears to me as well. Yes, sir.
Okay.
But can I follow up on that? 'Cause I'm not sure. It looked to me that it's either permanent seating area or it's entertainment area, not ever to be classified as bar area. But the applicant should be able to clarify that when he speaks.
But you have to go to definition of bar area.
Exactly.
And the definition of permanent seated area to look at this. I always thought in the past, I've watched 22 years of permits of compliance. I always thought that you designated a square for the dance floor and that was it. There could be no tables, no chairs in it, and you couldn't move anything around. So this is an interesting scenario for me, but if you go back and read the bar area and the permanent seated dining area, it helps clarify. Yes, you can designate, according to my understanding of the code, yes, you can designate a dance floor area. And yes, within that dance floor area, you can put tables and chairs that can be removed to be able to facilitate dances or entertainment. But what comes down to is the calculation of the floor area for that combo dance area, dining area is not counted as part of the permanent seated dining. Instead, it is counted as bar area. And if you recall, that's important because there are specific maximum ratios of bar area to seated dining area. Glenn, do you have any comment to add?
No, I think that's right. I'm searching the code right now for dance issues. I'm not sure this is proposed to be an actual dance floor or more an area where a small, somebody playing a guitar could set up or something like that. I'm not sure what the full intent here is. If it's actually dancing or some other form of entertainment.
If I may, the original application when this was triggered, I believe the intent was to have dining during normal operation, and then the ability to hold wedding parties, etc., that would demand use of a dance floor. I believe that was the original intent of the application.
Is there any more commissioner comment? If not, I'll turn it over to the restaurateur. Would you start by saying your name, please, so that we know how to pronounce it?
Sure, Bobby Gulab.
Gulab, yes, sir. Would you like to comment on anything we've said today?
I would, thank you. And first, I'll apologize about the confusion. I will say that Buildings and Licenses has been very supportive and giving me what needs to be done. So I apologize if some things weren't done or submitted the right way. I would like to just take a few moments and clarify some of the questions that did come up, and then spend a few minutes talking about why I would like the commission to consider approving the change in the floor plan. The first thing is I did have that similar question when Dom had sent me this about the 77 square feet and the 93 square feet. And the answer is that's the number of seats. And I apologize, I thought he was going to remove the SF there, but if you look, 70 through 77 is the number of seats, and then 93 is the number of permanent dining seats proposed if we include the floor plan. So it actually has nothing to do with the square footage of the building, and that's just a mistake. And I apologize. Dom and I had spoken about that, and I apologize if that did not get corrected. Number two, I did want to let everyone know that there is no change of ownership. I've had it when it was G Restaurant. I've had it for several years now, and I'm simply changing the name and going with a little bit different of a concept of the restaurant, of something that I think would likely be more of what's in tune with what people are looking for from a community standpoint in the area. Also, I apologize about the submission. The Alcohol Commission had approved a floor plan, and that is not the floor plan that I'm asking for. That is the floor plan that the one that's submitted to scale, as was said, is the one that I'm asking for to have seats on and seats removed. The reason I submitted that was for the commission to be aware that the Alcohol Commission has no problem with a plan like that. They have previously approved it, having seats on an area and having seats taken off an area. They referred to it as an entertainment plan, and that's why it's listed that way. But that's why that submission was there. That is not the floor plan I'm asking for. It's the one that's to scale, and that was submitted. So I do apologize about that. There are no changes to anything else in the building, not the patio, anywhere else. Everything else will remain the same. The bar area there that you see with the bar stools in that area will remain completely the same. It's the open room, it's the room next to it that I am requesting that currently is open, and we do use that for events. We've had several events there that have been just wonderful events for the community, wedding rehearsals, wedding parties, anniversaries, birthdays, business events, those kinds of things. So it's a wonderful space that we do enjoy using. However, especially given the times, we do want to maximize our space in the building. We are one of the larger places in Rehoboth. We can likely see that from the number of seats, but along with a large space also comes large expenses. As many people are probably aware, rent is usually charged by square foot, electricity bill, everything else really goes up by the size of your space. So we also want to maximize our space to the best of the ability to offset that, to be able to generate revenue. And that's why we'd like to ask, and I humbly respectfully request, to be able to use that space, have seats on there, which would then allow us to generate more revenue, which also then provides more services. The more seats we have, the more people we're able to employ as well. But we also still have that ability and the space in the building to use it for events. So we'd like to have seats on the area when we need the space for dinner service and things like that. And then when we do have people that do book events, we'd like to be able to remove those and have that used to have for people to be able to use events. And that's the only real request and change that I'm asking for, is to have 16 seats available on that area, but to be when we do need the seating there, and to be able to remove it when we do need to use the space for events. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you very much. I apologize, Commissioner Chernowski, your hand's up and I've overlooked you.
No, that's okay, Mayor. I was again wanting to clarify how that dance floor area was calculated, and get clarification from the applicant on how often that space would be used and how it would be used, which he commented on. So I think my only question is, my assumption is it was not calculated correctly, but that 410 square feet per the code, I think, should be calculated into the ratio of bar to permanent seating number, and I don't think that has happened. So I guess that's a question for Matt.
Well, if you look at the application or the building report, item 4D is in David. You'll notice it says bar area and dance floor area together total 830 square feet. So does that satisfy you?
Yes, it does. So the dance floor slash dining area sometimes has been calculated correctly per the code.
Looks like
And
it.
I think that was the one question that has come up by a few other commissioners. So it looks.
And are you satisfied?
If it is as the building official has listed in the report, I think it's correctly calculated, yes. That area should be, that area should be included within the bar area calculation.
Okay.
Yes, by
And
definition.
item 4C, permanent seated dining area, seems to be clarified that, as I heard it, existing 77 seats, and it's proposed 93 seats. Is that correct?
That's what I understand.
All right, thank you, thank you. If there's no, is there any more Commissioner Gay?
Yeah, I was going to ask about the clarification on counting the dance floor in the bar area, but that does seem to be correct on there. And I will just say, by the way, that I had an event there once a couple of years ago. The space is wonderful. And so I think it's great that to give them some flexibility, to use it for dining, as Dr. Gulib said, because of the size and expense of running it, but also it is a great space for events, and I suspect they will continue doing that. So, and I'll just say that when I first got the packet of materials, of course, I looked at the most important one first. That's the menu, and it looks like a great place. So I'm looking forward to going there. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Calusi.
Yes, I have two questions. So one, Dr. Gulab, you mentioned, or you checked off on your application that breakfast would be served. I don't see any breakfast information on the menu, and also it wasn't included in the report that Building and Licensing gave. Can you address that?
Yes, I can. I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I can. So we are currently not going to be doing breakfast. That is something that we may consider at some point down the road. But we would likely be doing more of a lunch menu, maybe somewhat of a brunch at those hours, but not technically, I guess, a true breakfast menu. Although I will mention that a lot of that is overlap with some of the brunch, but that current menu there does not support that, and we'll not be doing that right away, or at least right at the very beginning. I think as we transition over, I think we'd like to focus on doing a few things well. And that's going to be that menu there. And we may look at expanding things down the road. But I do think doing all of it at one time, after talking to some of the staff and a few others, that it may be a little bit much to do all at once.
Okay.
Thank you
And
very much.
Go
ahead, Kat.
My second question, Dr. Gulab, is about the dumpsters in the back of your building, the recycling. I guess you have a recycling container as well as a trash dumpster. Can you address the screening of those?
Yeah, so we've had a contract with that where people come and service those and pick those up now for several years. And so I guess, and I apologize, I may not be understanding the question, but that's been in place for many years. And they come and service those, pick those up, empty those out. I guess maybe I'm not understanding the question.
Well, we have a city code that requires screening of commercial trash, Pat. Is that what you're trying to address?
Yes, I am. That's correct.
Yeah. So, and I apologize if I'm not too familiar with it, but when you say screening of it, what exactly does that mean?
It can be fencing, it can be natural materials, bushes, something that screens the containers from view, public view.
So is that something that I know, and I'll be honest, and I apologize if this is my fault because ignorance is not an excuse, but I haven't had this come up before, and we've been operating this way for several years. Is that something that's newer, that is a requirement for everybody at this point?
It's not new. Perhaps Building and Licensing can address a little bit of this, but it's not a new requirement. So some people have screened them, some people haven't, and it's a matter of enforcement.
That is correct, Ms. Commissioner. It is a matter of enforcement. While some older restaurants that have existed, not necessarily they don't meet the requirements, basically. They are required to screen their dumpsters anytime a new dumpster placement is submitted. And we are working actively along with our fog ordinance to not only screen those dumpsters, but clean up the areas around them as well. So when the fog ordinance comes in, it will give us a little more leverage as well.
So can I supplement that? This comes from section 270.27 of the code. It's called storage of refuse. And just so the commissioners are aware, that section says in C1, C2, and C3 districts, which this is in a C1, all refuse storage areas and refuse containers shall be screened from public view with an acceptable screen material, including wood, lattice, fine mesh fencing, plantings, or other suitable material erected in conformance to all building and zoning codes. Said screened refuse storage areas and refuse containers shall not be located within setback areas. So I guess the question to the applicant really is, oftentimes when an application comes before the commissioners, it's an opportunity to bring things in compliance. So the question, I guess, to the applicant is, do you object in any way to the commissioners conditioning and approval, should they approve this, to the construction of a screening of some type of the refuse?
So my view is, I think that businesses are as much a partnership as anything else. And me for one, as being a business owner in Rehoboth, if that's what the commission would like, or what the city is going towards or would like us to do, I'm happy to look into that and make sure that we're doing what we need to be in compliance, because I think it's important for the relationship and the partnership.
Thank you for that. Thank you very much. Commissioner Byrne and then Commissioner Gossett.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I had a couple of questions that have now been answered in the last several minutes. So I'm satisfied with the information I've heard. And to be fair to Dr. Gulab, his establishment is not the only one in that alleyway that currently does not have appropriate screening. And we've talked about this off and on for several years. And the last time the restaurant that was going to go into the vacant lot caused quite a stir with us. And we had a long conversation with them. So I think in fairness, it is an enforcement, and it is working with those various establishments to help them figure out how to meet the code that we're talking about. And lastly, and very importantly, I'm really pleased that this is happening. This building has been dark for a while. It's been vacant for a while, and that's not what we want on our main street. So I'm really pleased with Dr. Gulab and his group that they're looking at a new opportunity here to open that building and to enliven business in that block.
Thank you, Commissioner Byrne. Commissioner Gossett?
Yeah, I'm too very excited about it reopening, and I think it'll be a great asset to have the lights on there again. But I want to, Mr. Janis, if you could help me through this a little bit. On the report from the building inspector under restaurant areas, dining area is proposed to become 1,132 square feet. And D, the bar area is shown as 830 square feet. So that's a difference from on line B, dining area, existing 721 to 1132. That's a variance of about 410 feet, which is the dance floor. But we're also including that in the bar area, in that calculation, which leads me to the question is, in our code, we state that the bar area shall be no more than 25% of the square footage of the permanent seated dining area, but not to exceed a maximum of 500 square feet. So could you help me through, where does that leave us with this? Does that proposed bar area, are we moving that from 830 and taking the 410 out of it and adding it up to the dining area? Or just how are we coming up with this calculation?
Certainly. Thank you, Commissioner. If you go into the definitions of the bar area, when a dance floor is proposed, it is supposed to be inclusive of the bar area and not included in the permanent seating. So it really depends on if this area gets the approval or not to be used as vice versa, a dance floor, seated. It depends on that usage, what those numbers are. So during normal operating hours, and it's just a seated dining, it would be the 1,132 square feet. When they propose to use it as a dance floor, that bar would increase by that 410.375 area to be the 830, which would put them over the allowable bar area.
So how do we solve that? Or I'm not clear as to how can we approve something that violates the code?
Right, it is something certainly to consider, and it really depends on the usage of that dance floor.
But what I hear you saying is that at times it's legal and at times it doesn't meet code. Is that what I'm hearing you say, or?
That would be correct, yes, sir.
So I'm just not clear. I mean, I'd love to see it open and what have you, but I don't know how we are able to violate our own code by approving this the way it's presented. So can you give me some suggestions, or Solicitor, how this could be accomplished?
Commissioner, can you point me to the code section limiting the bar area to 500 square feet?
270-19-5.
Thanks.
Sure.
But I don't have any, thoughts at this time. I mean, if that's a hard limitation, it's a hard limitation.
I don't, and I don't know whether it's been operating in such a manner previously or what, but again, to have us approve it in a direct violation of how the code reads, I'm just not sure how we can do that.
May I ask another question?
Dr. Gulab, yes, sir.
So I guess my question is, I've always viewed this being in the building and seeing it as a separate dining area. When we put seats on there, it's similar to all of our other dining areas. It's not a bar area with bar stools or anything like that. It's actually seats similar to that front dining room space or that back dining room space. So I guess my question is, does it have to be viewed as a bar area if it's being used as a dining area?
So the problem is that we're running into is I'm going to the definition section right now, and in that section there's a definition of bar area. And bar area is the floor space not classified as permanent seating and dining area. In any restaurant where alcoholic liquor is served or consumed, it shall include, but not be limited to, the bar counter and the contiguous floor and seating area where alcoholic liquor is dispensed or consumed, comma, any dance floor area and any area occupied by persons providing entertainment, period. So the definition seems to make clear that an area that's for entertaining or for dance floor is included within the bar area calculation.
So I guess my question would be, and again, I apologize about any trouble this is causing, but instead of then asking for an exception to the allowance, is it possible to ask for an exception to how that area is viewed? Because to be truthful, the other side of that, I mean, if you look at the drawing, to the other side is very similar to the one side, and one is dining, the other has the down dance floor, but we just like to use it as dining as well. So when it has seats, can it be viewed as a dining area? And when it doesn't, then it could be that contiguous bar area as definition?
So I think the point that Commissioner Gossett brought up is that we all, I think the commissioners probably agree that when it's got seats on it, it is more akin to a permanent seated dining area and not a bar area, and therefore it's seemingly in compliance with the square footage limitations. But when the seats are taken up, even though it's not used as a per se bar space for drinking alcohol and used for something else, the code seems to be forcing that type of a use to be classified as bar area.
Glenn, can I ask a question? I don't have the code right in front of me, but I was listening to what you just said.
Sure.
Does it have to be a dance floor or entertainment area in order to be counted as a bar area, or is any, because I'm thinking of the open space that would be there if they were having an event, which would not necessarily be entertainment nor dancing, or is it any open space has to be considered part of the bar area?
It is not any open space. It's those spaces that are clearly the bar area, and then it's in addition to that, it's any dance floor area and any area occupied by persons providing entertainment. So
okay, so then my question to Dr. Gulab is it ever going to be a dance floor or entertainment space, or is it only an event space?
So that has typically been used as an event space. I was told when I was getting involved with the building that has I'm not sure the right term, a grandfathered something to be able to, as a dance floor, because there's not very many of them in Rehoboth. Mm-hmm. So my only concern is to say that it's I would tell you it is mainly used as an event space because we enjoy events. We like the community to use it for events, and we have a layout that's perfect for that. Mm-hmm. I would hate to have something like that grandfathered in and to lose that. Because there's not many places like that have that dance floor classification as well. And not that we typically use that. I mean, to be honest, it's really more of an event space, but it is nice to have that or have that ability. And, you know, with the way things are going now with businesses and things, I mean, I think the more you can market yourself, the more you can advertise yourself, the more you have something to offer. And to be completely honest, there's not a lot of places from what we hear places like that in downtown for Rehoboth for people to have. And so my only hesitation with saying it's an event space alone is to lose that building has had for so long.
Well, I don't believe you would lose a dance space. I think that's everybody's allowed to have dance space as long as it fits the proper ratios from floor. You know, the way I interpret it, if you look at your drawings, you mentioned dance space, dance, and you keep mentioning the owner keeps mentioning events. To me, that absolutely fits the definition of bar area, and so I don't think there's any question in my mind about that. I'm still struggling with some of the figures here. That on 4B, it says the dining area is 721 square feet, but proposed is 1132. How you get from 721 to 1132 in dining area is you add 410 square feet, that's the dance floor. However, the line underneath it under bar area adds 410 to it. Which is it? Is it both?
So
I tell you, I'm absolutely confused and a little frustrated in that, you know, we've still got public to talk with. We've got anybody else that wants to comment. I'm frustrated enough to say, what does it take to postpone this till our next meeting? Do we have to renotice this, or can we do it as soon as a special meeting preceding our November workshop meeting, which is what, 2 to 3 weeks, so we can get all these numbers straightened out and illustrate the code with colored areas or something? What's bar area, what's dance area, and get it straightened for once before we actually act on it. What does it take to postpone it?
So Mayor, if you wanted to do that, you could defer the application. But what it would take to avoid having to renotice it and republish it, it would take the commissioners establishing a date during this meeting and announcing that the application will be deferred to that date, where you will then conduct the public hearing. If you don't announce that date during this meeting where everybody's been noticed and is here to comment on it, then we'll need to renotice it and republish it.
Mayor, if I could.
Go ahead.
So I don't think it's as complicated as you're making it sound. The 410 has definitely been double counted in the bar area and the dining area. The way that the that you read the code earlier, or the definition, and that the city solicitor read, I think it should only be counted in the bar area and not the dining area, as the definition spells out. But that does put him over it does put it over on the bar ratio. But the bar area ratio, having that dance floor, entertainment space, whatever you want to call it. But they currently are grandfathered for going over that space anyway. So all he wants to do is sometimes put tables in an area that is already grandfathered over in bar space. And I don't see why we wouldn't want to do that.
The term grandfathering, Glenn, if you could kind of expand on that, it's non-conforming use, and how does that apply then? If you could again help us through it, because I want to make it happen, but I want it to be clean and so that it doesn't come back to haunt us, if you will, because I have a feeling that there are other establishments in town that have the same desire and use of a dance floor, and to be equitable to others, if we allow this or understand this in a way, that's one thing, but I think we need to be very specific of how we come to this decision.
So grandfathering is a term that's used in connection with zoning applications. Historically, it was used in connection with other things, and it's becoming a more derogatory term these days. But in any event, it allows somebody who has an established use or structure that was established prior to some law that changed that would then prohibit that use or structure. They're allowed to maintain that use or that structure. The issue here is if you have a grandfathered floor plan, you're allowed to use your floor plan in a way that currently isn't allowable under existing law. The general rule is that if there's going to be a change to that grandfathered use, at that time, the owner or the user has to come into compliance with current law. The best example I can think of with what you're dealing with here is if you remember years ago, what is now Stingray was 59 Lake. 59 Lake, for that establishment and ones before it, they for a long time worked very hard to maintain their grandfathered dance area. And so I can recall many applications where they were very careful not to change seating because they knew that they would lose that grandfathered status should they change the arrangement of the seating. When Stingray came in, Stingray decided that the arrangement and the seating arrangement was so bad that it would be more productive for them to put the sushi bar where the dance floor was. And once they did that, the grandfathered space was lost, meaning that they can't now take the sushi bar and use that as a dance area. So that's the best example I can give you, that sort of mirrors what you're considering today.
So I understand that in that regard. So the question then comes, when was this, if you will, grandfathered? When was this in place before the restaurant revision to outline that 25%? And I think that was 1991. So I guess we need to look at when, if we can, when a floor plan was approved with a dance floor, and was it code compliant at that time? Is that possible?
Well, I don't think there's nobody seems to be arguing that the dance floor doesn't have a grandfathered status. I think it does. The question is a new floor plan arrangement, the approval of a new floor plan arrangement, would that then terminate the grandfathered status of the dance floor? And the answer to that, unless there's something unique about this application, is that yes, it will terminate the grandfathered floor plan.
Because the application is asking for either or use of both, right? Not one or the other.
Yeah,
sometimes
I guess that maybe Dr. Gulab could comment on what exactly the changes are to the floor plan that are being requested? What,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. I'd be happy to. And that's it. We'd like to add seating when we need additional seating or dinner services or different times like that as a revenue generator, as an ability to continue to operate to the maximum of our capacity. And then when we have events, we'd like to take those 16 seats off of there. And so technically, I think the answer is yes, we would like to operate as both, and hearing the commission and hearing what's hearing the way it's being defined. We would like to have seats on at times and seats off at times.
And is that a policy? I've been approached by several restaurateurs in the past that would like to have that ability, and I understand from building and licensing that is not allowable. So unless I'm hearing wrong or it's being interpreted differently, I want to get to a yes, but I want to do it in a way that we're not violating our own code. And I'm just looking for a way there.
Well, then, so I think one of the critical decisions to be made is that area bar area. And I mean, the mayor has stated that he believes that that's not an open question, that it is bar area. Others of you may feel otherwise, but based upon the definition. But that to me is the only way in which, if it were not included within bar area, you'd be below the 500 allowable 500 square feet, and you could allow for this arrangement. That's just the one area that I can think of that.
But we don't have any. Our definitions that in the code are permanent seated dining area and bar area. We don't have or do we have a definition for event space or what have you?
I don't think there is, but I guess if you viewed this area as permanent seated dining area and then allowed for a permission to take those seats up, meaning that area is either permanent seated, it is classified as permanent seated dining area, that would sometimes have tables and sometimes not have tables. But again, you have to work through the definition of bar area before you could ever get there. So I'll read the definition of bar area again, just so everybody has it. Find it.
While you're doing that, could I just ask Mr. Janis for his comments? You're the one that enforces this or interprets it on a day-to-day basis out there. Can you give us some direction as to?
Yeah, good question.
Look, let me interrupt for a minute. Again, I don't know what postponing this 2 weeks or a month does. The author of this report is not here. He's on vacation. To me, there's still a lot of questions that are up in the air, including how when chairs are not on the dance floor, I understand it counts as bar area, but I don't know if we have a clear understanding of when chairs are in the bar area, what does that do to the ratio of dining area to bar area, et cetera? I just think there's so many questions that we ought to go back to the author of this and get a lot of things clarified, as Commissioner Gossett said earlier, so that it would be a lot cleaner. Of course, I would like to get this done tonight, but we've got to make sure that we don't vote something in and then find out we did something wrong after the fact.
Well, and also, I mean, the decision could be challenged should you rely upon faulty information, and so in some ways it could be in the applicant's best interest to defer it as well. I tend to agree with you, Mayor, that the information here is just sort of not clear enough to, unless there's somebody else who can give testimony as to the exactness of the numbers, it seems difficult to decision on it.
Well, again, I apologize for cutting you off, Matthew Janis, from Building and Licensing, but even as you prefaced your report, that you weren't the one that authored it, and may not be as knowledgeable as the author of it. So my recommendation, I'm getting a note here that to allow for the author of this to get back and do sufficient study on it, that we should postpone this to the next regular meeting of the commissioners on November 20th, I believe it is. Is that correct?
I think that's right.
So we would not be able to do it at a special meeting at the workshop, you're saying?
That's what I
Well,
was,
time-wise, Sharon, what do you think time-wise?
November 9th?
Yeah.
What you're looking at?
Yes.
It really comes down to building and licensing and whether they're able to.
They have, the onus is on building and licensing. We have to give them enough time to address all our concerns. And I'm looking to you to give us guidance
I
on.
think that's sufficient time. I mean, Ron is back next week, and that's
Okay.
3 weeks.
Okay.
I believe
Well,
that.
then again, the public's allowed to speak. However, if we're going to postpone this, then I would postpone public's comment until that time. Is that all right, Glenn?
That is fine unless there's somebody on the line that says they're just not able to make it at that time, and you might want to give them an opportunity, but there's no legal requirement that you do that. If you're setting the public hearing for the November 9th date, you don't need to take public comment at this one.
So Bobby, I apologize, but the figures just aren't adding up. We need some clarification, and I think you would appreciate some clarification. So if the commissioners are so inclined, then we would need a motion to defer this meeting to a.
I'm sorry for cutting you off.
Go ahead.
It would be a motion to defer the public hearing on this application and further consideration of it until the November 9th workshop meeting.
To a special meeting before the November 9th workshop. We're going to vote.
Right. Better stated, yeah, right.
At 9 a.m. on November 9th.
Yep.
And at that time, Glenn, could you also advise or work with building and licensing to determine if it would be appropriate to also have a permanent of compliance for the patio?
Yes.
Thank you.
So I'm entertaining a motion.
So moved.
I'll make the motion to defer the public hearing for this restaurant application of the public house to a special meeting on November 9th. a.m.
I didn't hear that. November 9th at 9 a.m.
Correct.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Byrne. All those in favor, any further discussion? If not, then all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? And the motion is approved unanimously. Dr. Gulab, my apologies, but we will take this up and hopefully make a decision at a November 9th special meeting. Thank you very much.
And can I add, Mayor, just so the record's clear, that the commissioner's intention is to conduct the public hearing at that special meeting.
Very good. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to old business. And again, the public will be allowed to speak at that November 9th meeting. Thank you all. We're going to move on to old business, and we're going to start with we're going to have three different updates. We'll start with an update on the Grove Park Canal Access Project, including financials and timeline for completion.
Mayor, I'd like to have Mr. Williams and Mr. Miller provide this update for you. We're getting close to the finish line here, and I thought it was important that you have some information regarding this project.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Sharon. We'll start with the Grove Park Canal access and dock update. I'll give you a quick update on the status of construction and our project financials, and then Evan will address the fundraising and the overall programmatic funding. So there's just a quick shot of where we are financially on the project. Initial contract award of the $1.254 million. As we recall from the last update, I think we were through change order 2 at that point in time. So a large credit change where we deleted some things and changed some things. And then since then, you know, we ran into a couple of snags. One I think we talked about already was the Verizon duct and the demolition of the overlook out there. So all that was done. Most of that was done in change order 2, and then since the last update, we've had to do some realignment on the some of the ramps and landings because of some obstructions where we were trying to do some of our helical piles and the like. Also encountered some additional railroad abutment down below the water level that we really hadn't expected. So some additional changes to get that on board, to get that going. And then finally, a pending change on change order 4 where they selected alternate benches to put in, which saves us some money, but we had already deleted out the cost of the bench early on, so that was an add. And then to place some additional riprap after we got the realignment, or after we've settled on the realignment of the ramp and the dock, then some additional riprap and things down at the base and some portion up the bank. So that gives us a new current contracted amount of, as you can see, $1.212 million. So a little bit under our contract award amount. And we're currently at about 75% complete. So the main items remaining are the completion of the decking, the installation of the floating portion of the dock, and then the guardrails and handrails that'll be going on. Just a quick couple of pictures that were taken fairly recently. You can see the alignment of the ramps and the concrete has been placed. They've started the landscaping, and the decking is going on as we speak out on the deck itself. Again, another shot of that, of the landscape work going on. They've done a lot of work dressing up the top of the bank where they were staging for their construction activities. And there you can see the new, or the replacement of the bike lane going out through Grove Park. So nice change. Also took away that hole we had in it that was causing water to settle there and pond there quite a bit. There's a good shot of the decking going in. Again, they're doing most of that work from the barge, so it's very little disturbance up top. Another shot kind of from the bridge angle. That's going to look very nice as they get ready to get this thing completed. And there's a kind of a drone shot, again, of the ongoing construction on the decking itself. So coming along well. They think now that the railings had to be adjusted as part of the deck realignment and such. So that's kind of the long pole in the tent right now. But it looks like the first or maybe the second week of November for a final inspection. I'll turn it over to Evan to talk through where we are on the collecting of the funds.
Sure. Thank you, Kevin. Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. I want to direct your attention to the funding updates PDF that's provided in today's agenda. So this funding update essentially includes 4 different tables. The first table that you'll see is a summary of the funding sources so far that we've received for the Grove Park Canal Access Dock. And then from there, moving to the right, you'll see an available column, a pending column, and then just a notes column. So sort of starting at the top, the city has received a total of $317,500.
Not seeing the table.
Can you want to share your screen?
Yeah, I would have to get logged in to do that.
Sorry, we're having we want to be able to project the table for the commissioners on the public.
Yeah,
there you go.
Okay, thanks, Chief. So again, I guess I'll use the mouse here if you can see that. On the left-hand side, again, the funding sources. So the city so far has received a total of $317,500 from the LRCIA. That was a combination of two different checks that we received. The first check included Crystal Trust Foundation contribution in the amount of $150,000 and a Shell Brothers contribution in the amount of $100,000. Just this week, we received the second check from the LRCIA, which included a $50,000 contribution from Dogfish Head, a $2,500 contribution from DE Storage, another $2,500 contribution from Rehoboth Bay Conservancy, $10,000 from Arenas, and a $2,500 contribution from Wispus. And there's a remaining $2,500 to be expected in the calendar year of 2021. Next are the Community Transportation or CTF funds from Representative Schwarzkopf and Senator Lopez. We have requested $50,000 from Senator Lopez. That's shown in the available column. That goes back to an agreement that was dated, I believe it was August of 2019. So those funds have been requested. We're just waiting to receive that payment. It should come any day now. And then we've also been told verbally that Senator Lopez will also be contributing an additional $50,000. So we're waiting to hear regarding an agreement for those funds. And then also with that, Representative Schwarzkopf is also verbally committed, to my understanding, of another $50,000. So total of $100,000 is still pending for the Community Transportation Fund. The Outdoor Recreation Parks and Trails Grant is our ORPT grant. Just wanted to include that grant. It has been spent at this point, but you can see there that we've put a total of $44,204 towards the actual construction of the project. The remaining balance, it was a total of a $90,000 grant. Almost 50% of that grant went towards the invoices from Matt Spong at Landscape Architecture Services related to the design for the project. And then the remainder of those funds, that $44,204 went towards the actual construction. So that was reimbursed for payment applications from Thompson & Sons, the contractor. The Transportation Alternatives Program, $300,000, that has been received from the city. That was a check that was issued from the state to the city, so that is in a grants account within the budget. The Community Environmental Project Fund, that was a grant that funded particular items related to the dock. So specifically, that $20,000 went towards the mobilization of the barge that you see out there now on the canal. Those funds have also been requested, and we're just waiting to receive that payment, again, any day now. The bond bill appropriation, again, was a check that was issued from the state to the city, and that is sitting in a grants account along with the Transportation Alternatives Program grant. And then finally, the city's capital budget includes the $280,000 contribution toward the project. So total, you see $1,211,704 in the available column, and then $102,000 roughly in the pending column, bringing the total fundraising effort so far to $1,314,204. The table underneath that shows the expenditures as of today's date. So this includes 6 payment applications which came from Thompson & Sons, the contractor for the project. So far we've been invoiced and we have paid a total of $640,000 approximately for the construction. Just under that is sort of a breakdown of the number that Kevin had shown you earlier, which was the revised contract sum. So you see the original contract sum, which was $1,254,306. You'll recall that the commissioners appropriated a total of $1,354,306. That included a $100,000 contingency. But because that was not part of the contract sum to Thompson & Sons, that is not included in that number. So from there, you see with each change order that came in, we had a revised contract sum. So we had that pretty substantial change order credit for change order number 1. And then from there, the other 3 change orders that have come in. So change order 4, to our understanding, is going to be the last change order for this project. I guess fingers crossed for that, but you know, only $6,506 for change order 4. Again, it's pending, but it's a combination of credits as well as some additional expenses. But you'll see that our revised contract sum as of today's date, $1,212,415. So because of that significant change order credit, change order number 1, we're under that original contract sum. And then finally at the bottom is just a summary of sort of what's been invoiced from Landscape Architecture Services and some of their services that are ongoing. So total, the city has paid Landscape Architecture Services, at least from the invoices I was able to view, between July 2018 and then December 2019, which was the end of the design phase. Total of $111,827. But you'll see my note there to the right, which shows, again, that balance of the ORPT grant that we applied to the design. So $45,795 was reimbursed through this ORPT grant. And then finally, the construction administration. This is something that the Rehoboth Canal Improvement Association has taken on. The total contract amount for the construction administration was $79,200. And as of September 21st, they've paid almost all of that. So they've paid $71,144. And it's our understanding that the LRCIA has a cushion in their account to be able to pay for the remaining construction administration fees, as well as any potential reimbursables, because that is something that they will be responsible for as well. So that is everything that I have, and I can certainly answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions by the commissioners? I'm going to take that down and so I can see anybody. Nope. If not, we'll go to the public. Oh, well, I'm sorry, Commissioner Gossett and then Commissioner Sarnowski and Gay.
Yeah, just the construction administration, is that?
Put that back up on the screen.
No, that's fine. The 79,000, that's being handled by LRICA directly?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and so they have signed the contract with that organization, not the city?
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Sarnowski?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Could you, I think what the public really wants to know, Evan, is how much the city is still on the hook for. And when I take out approximately the $100,000 contingency, which we will not need from what you're saying, the additional $102,500 from Lopez Schwarzkopf and and another $2,500 from fundraising efforts. It looks like we're and then the leftover from the first change order that brought us down $98,000 from the contract amount. And then we've had a few small change orders that would add to it, but we're just about $70,000 that the city is actually on the hook for. Is that accurate?
I would say the city is right now, because as you see the fundraising so far, $1,314,000, and then the revised contract sum is $1,212,000. So we're kind of $100,000 to the good in that sense. So I would think that that could be, you know, a discount in the city's contribution to 280, leaving, I think, the city's contribution right now looking at about $180,000 as opposed to the 280,000.
Okay, and then taking out the 100,000 contingency, which.
So that was not included again in that original contract sum.
It was not. Okay. Okay, thank you for that clarification.
All right, I think we had, I can't see hands here right now because of the screen sharing, but I think Commissioner Gossett and Commissioner Byrne.
And I do too. So whoever.
I already went, so you go for it.
Commissioner Gay and then Commissioner Byrne. There you go.
Yeah, actually, thank you, Evan, for the clarification on that, because that was exactly almost exactly the number I came out with, is where the city stands today. And without going through my math, since you just explained it, I came out at 178,000. And you had said, yeah, about 180. However, there's another big component to there, actually two components to that I want to ask about. That credit that has obviously been a very positive development with the change orders, and has put the change orders in the, has basically erased the negative impact of the change orders, is in fact a deferred expense on the city, for the city, because the maintenance had been included in the initial contract. The positive change order was to remove that, correct?
What was it, the additional 3 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the additional.
We deducted the 2 for a credit of 66,000.
Okay.
So
We've had 2 in the contract.
But part of my point there is on the August CIP status report that the city manager gave us, it is shown that 98 is actually shown in the deferred column, like many other capital expenses, and that's fine. What that means is that we won't probably have it in this fiscal year, that it'll be deferred to next fiscal year. But if you view this project as a whole, I don't want to forget that 98, because it was supposed to be there and it was supposed to be part of the project. So in my mind, we're back where we started with 280, because we've got 180 plus 98 that we're still on the hook for, that it was just credited for this year. And in addition to that, I am assuming that the expenses for the design and everything at the bottom there are in addition to the contract rates, right? So the total paid to landscape architecture services, I realize some of that was through the grant, but what the portion that wasn't through the grant is also a city expense. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
And if I could, Commissioner, too, I want to comment. I don't want to speak on behalf of the LRCIA, but I did have a conversation with Mark Carter recently after the LRCIA had a recent board meeting, I think last week. He has told me that they are continuing their fundraising efforts. Their hope is to continue to fundraise and raise money for some of the additional items, such as the kayak launch that was pulled off of the project. He did mention some of the maintenance. They're also working on some interpretive panels, as well as an actual plaque or sign for the dock, which would be great, because we actually have a requirement for the ORPT grant that we have to display the DENREC ORPT logo. That's a grant requirement, so it'd be a good way to incorporate that within the plaque. So again, not wanting to speak on behalf of the LRCIA, but my understanding is that they are continuing fundraising efforts and hopefully trying to raise additional money for things like the kayak launch and the additional couple of years of maintenance. I have spoken to with Matt Spong with Landscape Architecture Services. We've tossed around the idea of applying for another community environmental project fund grant, hopefully to get some funds to pay for that kayak launch. So certainly I think the fundraising and going after any grants that we can for some of those outstanding items, we're doing that at this time.
Well, and I'm glad to hear that, because that was one of the other things I was going to mention, is that when, we voted to approve the funds, everyone, I voted against it not for reasons of the project, but for timing and what we were getting ourselves into. But everybody who voted for it said fundraising will continue, and this is supposed to be not not an expense, but sort of a loan in a way, and that the fundraising was supposed to make up the difference. I'm also not sure. I guess I didn't realize the kayak launch was not part of original plan. But anyway, I'm glad to hear that. But also, are they still getting, are they getting private contributions? Do we know the status of that?
I do not know the status
I
of
can
that.
address some of these questions if you'd
Okay.
like.
Yeah.
I've got, also Commissioner Byrne and Commissioner Gossett, so I don't know what sequence
That's
you
fine.
want to go.
I can address them later. That's no problem. I'll make note of it.
I mean, that was pretty much all I had, except just to say, and also in looking at the grants, and of course, I think it's wonderful that we have the grants. I know that the city depends on grants for any number of things. But I would just say that, I mean, there's about 500,000 in here in grants, and the city has a lot of uses for grant money. So I guess I would say going forward, I would like to consider grant funds to be, in the same way, to be prioritized, the same way we prioritize the CIP. We ought to prioritize what we go out for grant funds. But that's it. I'm done.
Commissioner Byrne and then Commissioner Gossett.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I guess one of my big questions was just answered from Evan about what's going on with fundraising and what's coming up. I have heard from the LRCIA that there'll be opportunities for fundraising next month with kind of the soft opening. Perhaps Commissioner Cluzy will give us more information on that in a few minutes, and that there's some fundraising planned for the spring. And so I think that is really positive. And I come from a glass half full on this, and that is that I view the value of this as an incredible asset to our city. I mean, even if, from my perspective, we were to end up putting only 180,000, and I think that is going to drop considerably over the next calendar year. But even if that was what the city put in, I think it's a heck of a deal for a $1.2 or $1.3 million asset added to our city. And there's going to be opportunities for for this being a revenue source in the future once the water taxi gets going. So I think we're gaining much more than we're giving up in terms of quality of life for our city and for those that live around and near our city as an attraction. This is going to be a value-added kind of project in the years ahead, and that's my perspective. So I really say hats off to the LRCIA, to Commissioner Cluzy, and those that have worked so diligently to get this going, and Evan and Kevin Williams. Thank you for your dedication to this.
Commissioner Gossett, please.
Yeah, just a clarification, Mr. Williams, I sort of heard you mention some comment about the credit, the 98, and that was in there for maintenance purposes, and that's the 3-year maintenance. Has there been a determination of an annual maintenance cost projected for the dock?
So Commissioner, on the original contract documents, we had a requirement for the contractor to perform 2 years of maintenance on the dock, the landscaping and all. And early on, then it was decided to remove that from the contract requirement, and that LRCIA was going to pick up the maintenance of the dock and the dock area. So we deleted that.
Okay, but projected annual maintenance then is a little less than 50,000 a year?
I think the credit was 66, the bid was 66 for a 2-year period.
So 33 per year was the bid?
Correct.
And then also, maybe this is back to Evan, at the sort of below the line there, landscape architecture services. Could you walk me through that again? The billing for 111,827, we applied 45 from the ORPT grant, which leaves that balance of 66. Whose responsibility is that 66?
So that was actually a city responsibility. That goes back again all the way to July of 2018. There were more than several invoices. So I think really what it was, I remember there were a couple retainers that were paid to Matt Spong just to keep him on board for the design of the project. and then just the progress throughout the design.
So that
But
that
that was a, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, that 66 goes back then into the 1.212? Because that's cost, right?
So it wasn't, those expenses were not a part, what I've captured here is basically just the expenses related to, at least in the contract amount, the expenses just related to the construction. The 111,000 relates back to the design and permitting. Yes, thanks, Kevin. All the way back to discussions that started, I guess, in July 2018 and maybe even before then. But there were invoices that were incurred since July of 2018. And then in December of 2019, that's essentially when we went from design phase into construction, and that's when the LRCIA took over the construction administration.
So that 112,000 or less is real money that really, the reason it was paid for is the design and development and permitting for the dock, correct? So that really should add up, be included in that 1.212?
So again, I mean, I guess you could say it should be, but
I mean,
that 1.2, go ahead.
I'm sorry, we wouldn't have spent it if we weren't building the dock, right?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
So 1.212 is just for construction, so not for
Okay.
design or permitting or anything like that.
Okay, thank you.
That sort of goes to my point about the fact that if the numbers, if what Evan said earlier, that we might come out at around 180, then you have to then add the maintenance back into that in order to be doing an apples to apples comparison to what we thought a year ago. And in addition to that, you have to add what Patrick just mentioned, the additional costs that weren't part of that, the 46. So really, the city's input in this is more like 300,000. Is well, it could be well over 300,000.
Anybody else? If not, let's see, we've got some, we do have a letter from Suzanne Good making mention of the project that is embedded in the agenda. Members of the public that ask to speak on these topics are Tom Evans and Sturgis Dodge. Are you available?
We're going to pass on this one.
All right, thank you very much. Rick Perry?
No comments on this.
Thank you, Rick. Walter Brittingham? Members of the public that ask to speak on these topics are Tom Evans, Sturgis Dodge. Are you available? All right, thank you very much. Rick Perry? Thank you, Rick. Walter Brittingham?
No comment.
Thank you, Walter. That's all from members of the public. Thank you very much, Evan and Kevin, Sharon, for preparing that. We'll go on to item B, update on Lake Avenue Phase 2 Streetscape project, please.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Just as a brief update on our Lake Avenue Streetscape Phase 2 project, if you've been by 2nd Street, you've seen all the activity. Just to recap, kind of there's the project footprint on the map. Just a brief recap on the funding and where it's coming from, but a contract amount of about $1.22 million, and they started work about a couple of weeks ago. So here's just a couple of action shots out on 2nd Street. You can kind of see the formwork going in for the sidewalk, and then the sidewalk layout over by the condos. Some significant issues making sure the post office had access to their loading ramp at all times. So we actually went ahead and did some high early strength concrete so that their delivery vehicle could get in there the following day after the concrete pour. So that was kind of an adjustment on the fly that we had to do to account for the post office staying in operation all the time. And just some other shots down 2nd Street as they work their way from Rehoboth down to Olive, and then they'll flip and work the other side here on the way back. So here's kind of a rough outline of the phasing that they have. So they started on the east side of 2nd Street from Rehoboth down to Olive. And at this point, they're doing mainly the concrete curb and gutter work, any manholes that would need to be lifted, those types of things. Then they'll come back and do the second half of, or the west side of 2nd Street. And then after they get both sides done, then the intent is to come in and mill and overlay the center part. And then they'll flip over to the Olive, Maryland interchange in the same kind of format. They'll do the curb and concrete gutter work and on Maryland, then flip over to Olive, do the curb and gutter, and then come back in and mill and overlay. Obviously, the mill and overlay, as you'll recall, is somewhat temperature and weather dependent. So they're trying to build in some flexibility. So if we can't get asphalt in January and February, then making some arrangements that could get it in early in the spring or as soon as it warms up to get those resurfaced.
Very good. Any commissioner comments? Nobody? All righty. Rather than go to the public, if you don't mind, I'd like to hold you off till after the next update, and we'll let you do 2 for 1. So we're going to go to update on the pending new recycling program on the boardwalk.
Okay, thanks again, Mayor. Just another brief update on the recycling program. Just a shot of, there's our cans in the appropriate color with the appropriate labeling and the appropriate colored bags, lining bags in them, sitting next to our new electric vehicle, which has turned out, although it was targeted to work on the recycling program, it has been very useful to us, even without the recycling program in effect. So we've found lots of other uses for it, and it's great for being on the boardwalk. Guys love it. And just a couple other close-in shots. You can see the old regular trash cans are now all gray. I think you've seen most of those out. We're still working our way through the old black bags, so you'll still see a lot of those, but ultimately that'll be the configuration for the trash. And then our blue recycles with the nice logos on there and then labels on top for cans and bottles only. And our plan continues to be that if we ever get to phase 3 and the COVID recovery plan that's when we would plan to implement the recycling on the boardwalk. That's the current plan for implementing the recycling on the boardwalk.
And when will that be?
Inshallah.
Yeah. Any questions from the commissioners?
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Kevin, for the update. And I think it'll go well. We may work through all the old bags before we get there.
God, I hope not.
Very good. Thank you, Jay. We'll go to the members of the public. Tom and Sturgis.
Sturgis here. Hi, everybody. Hope you're all doing well. I just have a question about the Lake Avenue project, and I'm wondering what the plan is for the triangular island there, and what's being done with that, and when that's going to be completed.
The island has a separate landscape plan that our arborist is working to accomplish. This contractor will do the site plan, site grading. There's a stormwater retention basin that gets put in the island, and he'll do any tree removal that has to happen as a result of that. And then Liz has a consultant that's developing the landscape plan to put back in the triangle and then to tie into the park across the street with a couple of replacement trees over there, and then tying it also into the other side of the street over by the condos. There's a strip there that will get some additional look from our landscaping. That work will be done in the spring after all the pavement is done. So I would estimate probably in April, early May to have that work done.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll go to Rick Perry.
No comment. Thank you.
All right. And Walter Brittingham, please. Lake Avenue Phase 2 and/or recycling program.
So I would estimate probably in April, early May to have that work done.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Rick Perry. Walter Brittingham, please.
Thank you. Thank you for the question about the plan for the triangle for the landscaping. It'd be nice the public had some initial comment before the end product gets thrown back and we're kind of shoved down our throats. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. All righty. The next item of business is new business. This is a review of commissions, committees, boards, and task force with respect to mission objectives, mission membership criteria and makeup, creating new and sunsetting of committees, also policies and other related topics. If you recall, this was on the agenda for our October workshop, and we ran out of time. Normally, we do this type of thing where we have introduction to the discussion at workshop meetings, and if you recall, we were running late, and everybody agreed to put it on the regular meeting agenda. My expectation or hope for this meeting is really just to introduce the topics and not necessarily come to any conclusions, and instead continue talking at the next meeting, which is a November workshop, and then vote if ready at the November regular meeting, if we're ready. I don't see any big rush. The committees that are in operation now can certainly continue to operate with less than full occupancy, if they will, because of some vacancies. And again, by spreading this out over a few meetings, it'll allow the committee chairs and committee members also to be able to react to it. Accompany this topic is a support document, and I'd like to just go through it fairly quickly, because again, I'm not intending to come to great conclusions on everything, but I would like to certainly pick everybody's brain and garner some feedback on these different topics. Again, looking at committees from the perspective of their mission statements. Do they need updating? Do they need editing? Is the committee time to sunset it? Is it time to add any new committees, etc.? If we follow the outline of our support document dated October 1st, review of commissions, committees, boards, and tasks, I'm just going to go through from top to bottom real quick, and we'll let everybody comment. Don't have anything to say on the Planning Commission, Parks and Shade Tree Commission, Board of Adjustment, nor the organizational liaison. I think they all stand for themselves, and they've all gotten any vacancies filled at this point. The next committee is the Audit Committee. The Audit Committee receives its marching orders from the charter. We do have one vacancy. Otherwise, I have nothing new to add to this at this point. Does anybody? All righty, we'll go on to the Animal Issues Committee. And as you see, I had pulled all the chairs to ask them to give me a brief update of their committee and some of the actions they've taken in the last years and what they're proposed to do in the future. So that's self-explanatory, but if anybody, again, has any ideas for different edits to mission statements, etc., now's the one time that we're offering for you to speak up. Very good. There is one vacancy on there, and we'll address later how to fill some of these vacancies. Page 3, Bandstand, Convention Hall, Special Events Committee. This is a committee that we just appointed Patrick as chair. It has at least one vacancy. I think there might be an additional vacancy, somebody on here having resigned. I will double check that. Does anybody have comment on this committee?
Yeah, I have a question, Mayor. I view this committee as a very important one in our city. And, you know, in addition to doing what this statement intends to recommend policy on rates, hours, fees, venues, etc., it seems to me that it's missing the component of marketing or promotion, because in order to do this, you need business. And it just seems like this group ought to consider adding something about marketing and promotion to their mission statement.
All right. Any other comments? Nope. Okay, we'll take that into advisement, and Patrick certainly will. The next committee is the Board of Elections. They're authorized by the charter of the city, so I don't expect to do anything there. One thing I want to do in the future is look at our code, look at elections policy and procedures, and it could be that maybe at that time we decide to expand the Board of Elections from 3 members to more, and task them with looking at some of the charter and ideas. Anyhow, we have members filled on that right now. Are there any comments? Oh, this is sweet. Boardwalk and Beach Committee. We just appointed Jay Legree, Commissioner Legree, as chair. And as you can see that they've had a busy tally of projects and things that's before you. Are there any comments, Jay or others, on this committee?
Yeah, I'm very happy with the objectives of our committee. Make it friendly, keep it safe, keep it clean, pay attention to aesthetics, and do no harm. One of the things that I hope we can concentrate on, we continue to concentrate on, is commercialization of the boardwalk and the beach, and with the applications for 5G towers, it's going to be a tremendous commercialization problem. But I look forward to working with the Department of Public Works and the director to keep working on that. And we're just going to continue working on projects that we've been going, but we're going to make a big focus right now on commercialization. And
all right. Thank you very much, Jay. Next committee is the Budget and Finance Committee. Now, it's funny because this was actually listed on the application form, and we got a lot of people that were interested in being on the Budget and Finance Committee. Of course, Budget and Finance Committee is solely the mayor and commissioners, and we had to tell those people, I'm sorry, that they could not apply. Somebody posed a question to me. I think it was Ann Womack, are you there? When was the last time this committee met? She may not be at her desk. My recollection is that this committee has never met. And so my question is, why do we take up space with it? Because we always advertise our meeting as a budget meeting, not a meeting of the Budget and Finance Committee. And so I don't know if anybody has any, can determine any value in keeping it versus sunsetting. I don't think there's any charter requirement or code requirement or anything. So if there's no comment, I'm going to put a big question mark on it, and we'll make a decision. No comment?
I'm fine with sunsetting it. I mean,
I thought our budget meetings were I thought this was the same as our budget meetings, I guess. So.
I'm sorry, Pat, I didn't catch your comment.
I was going to say I'm fine with sunsetting it, but what Commissioner Gates said is when we have meetings about the budget every, for several weeks, that's really, I guess, the meeting of the budget committee. But it's not a committee; it's really just our discussion as commissioners about the budget. So you're right. I think you should just sunset it because it isn't a committee.
It's really always been advertised, I believe, as a special meeting to discuss the budget, and that's it. So, all right, thank you very much. The election officials is next. I believe this is in the charter. I don't know if you know, Glenn. It is in the charter, so there's nothing we're going to do with the election officials. The next committee is the Environment Committee. And you can see their mission there. They currently have 10 members. They have 2 vacancies. Commissioner Richard Byrne is an ex officio member. Some somewhat of a sponsor or mentor, and you can see their other information there.
Yeah,
Any comment? Yes,
and Mayor,
Commissioner
just to
Parker.
interrupt a moment. We've talked, without conclusion, but we've talked about me becoming co-chair with Charlie Garlow as opposed to the liaison.
Correct, and at the end of this conversation, I want to throw out some of my philosophies on committee policies, and so that will come into play at that time, Dick. Thank you very much.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. Law Oversight Committee, I know Hoyt, you're here, maybe you want to comment if you would like afterwards. I certainly have some comments. Does anybody else?
I do.
Commissioner Paluzzi, please.
Yes. So one of the things we've been talking about for quite some time is to have a rewrite of our code. So it's by professionals, so it's more enforceable and easily understood by people who are having to implement it. So they've already, Hoyt and his group have done a large job in putting some things together with the tree ordinance. I've yet to compare it to make sure that they haven't made some policy decisions about the tree ordinance that were, not really necessarily desired. But what I'm thinking at this point, and I believe the city manager has said that we are going to move forward. There was a budget item for a rewrite of the code. And so I'm thinking just in general that maybe having this particular committee isn't necessary, that it should probably be sunset.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. This was brought up before, and I think my answer is the same then as it is now in terms of zoning rewrites. It's been requested on and off. There is something going on, and what I would like to do is at our November workshop meeting, put that on as an agenda topic for a full discussion of what does code rewrite mean, what does it take, what kind of budgeting do we need for it, and what's already been done. All right? Anybody else? I will say that Sturgis Dodge, she's on the phone, but I told her I would share this with me. She emailed me actually back in September, and she was on the Law Oversight Committee, and she said to me her preference, despite the committee's valiant efforts and her collaboration, is that the committee be disbanded and the city invest in professional review of the entire code. So that kind of reflects your feeling, I think, Commissioner Paluzzi. Anybody else? If not, my position before has been, do we really need such a committee? I think that the Board of Commissioners are elected officials, that they should be the ones reviewing the code. However, over time, I've looked at what they've done, and I really think that I could lean toward keeping them if the tasks were assigned by the commissioners. And I know, for instance, there's citizens out there that have been complaining about noise levels, having to do with leaf cleaners and leaf blowers and things like that. That, for instance, to me is not an easy topic, but it's just certainly a shorter duration topic to study and try to come to conclusion and make recommendations on than the tree ordinance kind of a thing. So I could see keeping a Law Oversight Committee for that. I hate the name. I've never liked the name because I don't think they have anything to do with oversight. And so if we keep it, I would ask for consideration of changing the name. And that's my little spiel for now. If there's no other commissioners wanting to speak, Hoyt, we'll turn the microphone over to you.
Can you hear me okay? I'm a little concerned about
Yes, you're good. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. First of all, you're suggesting sunsetting the committee. I've said to you personally and to a couple of the other commissioners individually, that I'm perfectly comfortable with that. I think we've completed a momentous task in coming up with a proposal for altering the tree ordinance. So if I walk away from the table at this point, I'm content. Having said that, I think there's other opportunities and useful options for this group. And I've also spoken to you and others about some possibilities there. I will say this again, probably I'm coming up on a dozen times. The code needs to be revised in its entirety. Failing that, there certainly needs to be consideration of amending the zoning code. And so, whether or not, I'll tell you straight out, the Law Oversight Committee, or whatever you want to call it, is not capable of taking on either one of those tasks. It doesn't require professional help. But beyond that, there might be some other options, and we can go into that if you're going to have further consideration of the concept. Thank you.
Thank you, Hoyt, very much. And I think on behalf of everybody, we thank you and your committee for what you've done on the tree ordinance. And we don't want you to disappear, because when we start in on that, we're certainly going to be looking to you for additional recommendations and feedback.
I'm totally committed to completing that task.
Great, thank you very much. Any other comments from the committee? So,
yeah, the work that they've done has been a lot like you'd ask a task force to do. Only with the trees, it was a huge task force objective. Maybe we should think in terms of task force and maybe activate them to work on noise, and then once that's done, settle down for a while. And then if another project comes up that we'd like to have work done, activate them again. I don't know whether that's even doable, but maybe we can pick and choose the tasks. Certainly the code revision is not something that they would want to do, I don't think. So that's just my 2 cents.
all right, thank you. I'd like to pause a minute and go to the public. We'll do a session now and then at the end of our conversation. Does Tom Evans or Sturgis Dodge have any comments on committees? It's up to the point that we are.
Not I.
Nor I, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Rick Perry.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I have a couple of comments, well, maybe more than a couple. First of all, as the former chair of the Planning Commission, I do want to point out that an email that you received, which is included in your agenda from John Dewey, misstates some facts. And I do believe that it's important for both the Board of Commissioners as well as for the public to clearly understand that Mark Saunders was a business owner. He owns 2 businesses in the city of Rehoboth. Mr. Dewey stated that he was neither a resident, a voter, or a business owner when he was appointed, and that is not correct. It's also my view that the subsequent amendment to the code provision with respect to qualification for membership on the Planning Commission did not negate his original appointment. I think that should be a well-settled point of law. When you talk about grandfathering, I think that is a very prime example of someone who was grandfathered when appointed under the original provisions of the code.
Rick, my apologies. I'm going to cut you off. I'm going to cut you off on that. You said Mark Sanders. It's actually Mark Hunker.
Saunders. I'm sorry.
That's not relevant to our agenda right now. So if you have more comments relative to committee review, we'd appreciate it.
All right, fine. With respect to the code rewrite, I think it's very important. No, all right, you're not going to agree with this comment either. With respect to the committees in general,
the Planning Commission previously took a position that they believed that you should appoint as ex officio members to the various committees, members of the Planning Commission as liaisons to the Planning Commission, so that they would know what the various committees are discussing and considering that could impact decisions of the Planning Commission. I would encourage you to consider doing that. I have a suggestion for a new committee. I don't know if you feel that's appropriate at this point.
Well, let's do that at the end, Rick. Hold tight on that.
All right, fine.
Thank you. We'll get back to you. Walter Brittingham. Let's do that at the end. Hold tight. Thank you. Walter Brittingham.
No comment. You're doing a good job.
Thank you, Walter. So let's continue with our committee review. We've got the next one is the Mayor's Advisory Committee on Tree. You see their mission statement there. We have a new chair, Commissioner Susan Gay. They have 1 or 2 vacancies on there. They have 10 members. And I don't know if anybody has comments on their mission statement, et cetera. I know Commissioner Gay, I think you submitted something, and it's actually a support document in your packet. Would you like to expound on that?
Yeah, and I'm not going to read the entire thing just in the interest of time, but and, you know, this is where I'm going to be making the formal proposal for a name change of our committee. And interestingly, and we go from the Mayor's Advisory Committee on Trees to the Trees and Green Infrastructure Committee. And adding green infrastructure is really nothing new for us, in that those of you who were on the commission in February of last year of 19 may recall that Tony Sharp gave a really great presentation on green infrastructure. And at the end of it, she asked for a commitment from the mayor and commissioner to include green infrastructure in every city project. And she got that commitment. You know, I went back and I watched her presentation, and big questions about heat island effect from someone. There was interesting comments about the bump outs that had been made in the first part of the Lake Avenue project. And we've really, you know, we want to be part of increasing not only the canopy of the city, which has been our goal from the beginning, but really focusing in on what else infrastructure brings our city in terms of stormwater management and sustainability. You know, that it really goes much beyond simply focusing on you know, and our first major project, in fact, will be the Sturgis asked the question earlier about the triangle, the Lake Avenue Streetscape project, and we've identified that as one that we want to work with the city on, to not only include trees in that triangle, but plan for some trees at the breakers. There are others, a bioretention pond included, and all of that would be the green infrastructure component of that project, so that the donations made to the Commemorative Tree Program in the coming year would go toward that Lake Avenue Streetscape project. So with that, and with the background that's in the memo, I guess I'm looking for an approval to, and the committee was enthusiastic, and I think, you know, unanimously endorsed changing the name. We talked about a number of different combinations and permutations, and this is the one that won out.
Thank you, Susan. Commissioner Calusi.
Yes, I'm all for green infrastructure for sure. But I see an overlap with the environmental committee, and I'm not sure, you know, they're stepping on each other's toes. I don't know whether it needs to be a member who will be, you know, maybe a member on both committees, or a couple of people, because it's some of the green infrastructure things that Susan talked about are things that I think definitely fall in the environmental committee. So we just don't want people, you know, going off in the 2 different directions or in the same direction, spinning their wheels. So I don't know what how to necessarily resolve it, but there's probably some resolution, so there's some connection there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, in fact, that has certainly occurred to me. In fact, last year when the Environment Committee was first proposed, this was before I was elected, or at least before I took up. I got up at one of the meetings and made that comment that I was concerned about the overlap between that committee and the committee that had been already going. I was told that, yes, there's going to be overlap obviously between the Environment Committee and various other committees. There may be an overlap between Environment and Beach and Boardwalk, because of the recycling or whatever. I mean, environmental issues are kind of, they're very broad. And looking at what that committee, and I guess, I don't know if Charlie's still on, I don't think he is. But in looking at what they focused on in the near term, I mean, the plastics ban and the 5G and I know the climate change plan, there will definitely be some overlap, and I could see some involvement there. But I also see them working in other directions, and I think we each have separate vision, and where we would have overlap, I would hope that we would.
Thank you, Susan. Commissioner Legree.
Yeah, green infrastructure is stormwater management. And yes, the Boardwalk and Beach Committee is very much interested, but there's no better lead agency or lead committee than the tree and green infrastructure for stormwater management and coordination with public works and all the great things that stormwater management encompasses. And the folks at the Beach and Boardwalk Committee will be happy to support them in any way, since almost every drop of stormwater that's discharged from this city, with the exception of 4 outlets to go to the canal, all come under the boardwalk or across our beach and into the water off of our beach. So we're happy. We're really happy to hear them incorporate green infrastructure in their mission. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Byrne.
Yes, thank you. I certainly agree with what Commissioner Legree and Commissioner Gay have said the last few minutes. I also sit on the current Mayor's Advisory Committee on Trees, and as this was talked about, the name change was talked about. Someone had what I thought was a wonderful, very succinct definition of green infrastructure. I don't have that in front of me, and maybe Susan does, and if she does in a few minutes, it'd be worthwhile to share that. So that's one point.
Find it, but see. Yeah, I don't
yeah,
know.
if you can, it'd be great. This is a worthy discussion that Commissioner Cluzy brought up, and I don't think it's one that gets settled or defined. I think it's an ongoing discussion between all of us that represent the various committees and commissions, because in the real world, these things do overlap. They're not black and white. They're not tight definitions around these, because that's not the way the real world operates. And so the ongoing communication and sharing, and probably in some instances compromise, needs to continuously be taking place. We know that in these broad areas of environment, green infrastructure, et cetera, there is so much that we can be working on that I don't think we have to trip over each other or get in each other's way. I think, like Jay just said, we can support each other, but there's also so many things that we can be doing, that we can find areas of focus that somebody else is not working on. So I'm not bothered by this at all, as long as we continue to communicate about it.
Communication. And I hope you'll stay involved with our group, because you're the the tie between our two groups. So.
Yeah. And I'm very supportive of what all these groups can do in this big area. Right.
I do have that definition. Thank you, Dick, for asking about that, because Liz brought this to our meeting. It's from the National Green Infrastructure Certification Program, and it says that green infrastructure refers to stormwater management practices that protect, restore, or mimic the natural water cycle. Trees and vegetation are often used in green infrastructure. That's short and sweet.
Very good. Thank you, Susan. Commissioner Gossett?
Just a comment for consideration on this. I think this discussion brings it forward. Many of the committees have ex officio members, and I would strongly suggest that we add the city arborist to this committee as an ex officio member, so that that voice is there on a consistent basis as opposed to just when needed, what have you.
Yeah, she actually does come to all of our meetings, and I'm not sure whether she's officially listed as ex officio or not, but she certainly should be.
I think she is somewhere.
She was somewhere, yeah.
Seen that.
Yeah.
On the document we have in front of us, it's not. So
Right,
I just,
realize that, yeah.
yeah, thanks.
Thank you. As far as the name change from Mayor's Advisory Committee, I'm fine with that. I don't think the committee should be specific to the mayor. It's shared among all of us. So whatever you come up with that's appropriate is fine. I think you all said it well about compatibility with multiple committees, being able to work together, and that's my interest, that one group doesn't get their nose out of joint, that they feel their toes are getting stepped on. I think they're all valued. They all have different perspectives. I know that with the Boardwalk Committee, we were approached once by the Street and Transportation Committee to look at bike routing on and off the boardwalk, and they presented their case, and we actually agreed with them some of the time, but most of the time we didn't. But that's all right, because we had our own perspective, and that's what we put into our report, and they had their perspective, opinions on it, and it still worked out fine. So as long as your different groups can work together, I'm fine with making that change to this, including any changes in your mission statement to reflect the document that you handed out. Any other comment?
We'll work on that. We obviously don't have a full mission statement yet, but we'll work on that. Is that something we need to vote on?
I don't know. We may choose to do that. When we do them all at the same time or something.
That's fine.
So there's no other. Patrick, your hand's still up. Are you? You have?
No, I'm done.
Nope, you're good. All right, thank you. We're getting close here. We got the Parking Advisory Committee. This has at least two vacancies out of 6. Some of the others have questioned the value of the committee in terms of not the value of the committee, but more whether they feel like the Rodney Dangerfield, that they don't get no respect. They put a lot of time into it, and a lot of the recommendations were not accepted. So obviously, if we go forward with this group, we need to figure out how to make it work. I know that one comment has been put forward that possibly the Parking Advisory Committee could become a parking task force so that they are reacting to requests by the mayor and commissioners. And other comments that I have received are perhaps it should be an ad hoc committee of the Street and Transportation Committee. So if I could get your feedback, starting with Commissioner Gossett, please.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that they have certainly presented their findings to the commission last time with some specific actions to be taken. So it's really more of a task force, I think, in my opinion. And to model Commissioner Calusi's words earlier, there's a lot of overlap between this, the Streets and Transportation, and also the Parking Garage Task Force. So I think that if the Parking Advisory Committee really would to become a task force, that things change within the city, and they could be called upon, either this group or a revised group of individuals, to participate in specific questions that we want the commissioners direct them to answer and reply to on a task force that could fall into the category of the Streets and Transportation Committee. I think that might be the better way to go, because again, with the parking garage, it all is an interweb there that really everybody needs to know what's going on. And I think when you get multiple bodies working on the same issue or feel that they have a voice in that same issue, it just becomes very muddled. So I think Streets and Transportation should be the leader on any of the parking or parking garage or permitting or anything of that nature, and perhaps look to outside sources to develop a more specific recommendation to us should the commissioners direct them to do that.
Thank you. Anybody else? Well, it may come up again when we get to Streets and Transportation Committee. So we'll go on to the next committee, the Parking Garage Task Force. That has 11 members on there. There are at least 5 vacancies. As you know, this committee hasn't met in a while. I have tasked the chair of that committee, or task force, which is City Manager Sharon Lynn, with convening that task force one more time, or at least one more time, so that we can bring it to conclusion and learn whether they intend to keep moving forward with it or whether they've decided to terminate their studies. One way or another, we haven't really heard any conclusions or anything from it. And again, if they are deciding to ask us to sunset it, then we need that message and all the minutes brought up to date and concluded. And if they want to continue forward, that's fine, but at least give us some idea or report of where they're headed. Any further comment? Commissioner Cluzy.
Yes, I agree with Commissioner Gossett that, in fact, that this, if they choose to continue, the parking task force should probably fall under Streets and Transportation, much like the parking advisory task force. So that would be my opinion.
All right, thank you very much. We'll go, Commissioner Gossett.
Just one quick, I noticed on the documentation that the Parking Garage Task Force really does not show a mission statement or a charge. Was there a specific one given to them, or is there something that is available to just what was expected for them to produce?
I don't know. We'll turn to Sharon in a minute. All my information I got off the website, and there was no mission statement or anything. Sharon, do you recall?
So it was, yeah, so there was, I'll say, excuse me, a specific charge by former Mayor Coons requesting that this committee be put together to see exactly, to come up with ideas and whether or not it was even feasible. The intent was to then bring any conclusion to the commissioners, of course, for them to decide and possibly have some kind of preview of what a parking garage could be. So specifically, that was the intent, that was the mission statement, if you will. The committee met approximately, I'll say 5 to 7 times, no more than that, and it no longer met prior to COVID because the conclusion there was that it was not, well, let me just say that it was not feasible to move forward with the current layout of the parking lot there.
Let me interrupt. Would you mind convening them one more time?
Sure,
and
yes.
doing a report to it so that we have something written? Because then if we choose to sunset it, then there needs to be a final meeting where you formally close the meeting. And again, we need all those minutes brought up to date. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Personnel Committee is next. That is, the new chair of that is Patrick Gossett. The other 2 seats are by Commissioner Byrne and Commissioner Sharnowski, with the city manager on there. That's all that's allowed on there by the charter. Next, we have the Streets and Transportation Committee, which is chaired, I think, by David Mann. As far as I know, there are 2 vacancies on there. and we would need to fill them. And I have asked if Commissioner Calusi would be interested in any of those committees, parking or streets and transportation, and I'll let her respond with, at the appropriate time, whether she's interested in doing that or not, and what her feelings are on rolling one into the other. Otherwise, you've got the extensive history here of things that they have worked on. And again, I asked Commissioner Calusi to chair that because she's done a good job in the past on transportation, bicycle routing, bicycle planning, and bicycle parking, etc. Pat, do you want to say anything?
Yes, thank you. Yes, I was the chair of the transportation committee some time ago, and we did have a bicycle pedestrian master plan, and some of it's been implemented. We, got scooters off the sidewalk. We did a variety of things, and I was always very interested in continuing to pursue that area, and I still remain interested to do that as specifically for bicycles, pedestrian parking. There's just a lot of things, and I'd be happy to chair that committee. Thank you.
Well, and we do have a productive chair now, David Mann. So hopefully you could work with him or co-chair or whatever without knocking them out. Totally. Thank you. Any other comments on streets and transportation? If not, we have covered them all very quickly. I would have hoped for a little more feedback on some of them. For those that we didn't, they'll likely maintain the status quo, but we'll be addressing them again. Before I go to public comment, I also wanted to ask if any commissioners had any comments on new committees that they might recommend for consideration.
I have one question about the Park and Shade Tree Committee, which I guess is now a commission because they are somewhat judicial in terms of making decisions. I'm wondering, are we going to change the name of that committee? Because I don't know if that makes sense at this point. Park and Shade.
Well, it's a commission. It's authorized in the code. And I think that conversation would have to coincide with the tree code review.
Okay.
Because, the tree code review may say, and I haven't read it in a while, but it may say that variances or requests for flexibility go to the Board of Adjustment instead of the tree commission or something, whatever. But Susan's shaking her head no, so I don't remember correctly.
They talked about that. They ultimately didn't do that, but they did recommend in the new ordinance is a recommendation of a name change, and I can't remember. I think it may be something like maybe it's like the Tree Ordinance Commission or something like that.
Okay, so the point is we'll wait until that tree code review is fresher in our minds and be able to discuss that. Thank you very much. Any other new comments? Commissioner Srnowski?
Yes, Mayor, thanks. I just wanted to, Commissioner Byrne mentioned about expanding the role of the Convention Center Bandstand Committee earlier, and I want to echo that. I think there does need to be a committee that focuses on marketing, promotion, tourism type issues in general. But I also, and I don't know if these two should be combined or not, but we also used to have a communication committee, which was a little bit more strategic in messaging, ways to communicate, more strategic, I think, in how to get the word out. So, I've often considered whether that is still something that's necessary within the city or not. So I would just throw that out there for discussion as well.
All right, thank you very much. Commissioner Gay.
And I remember, and actually, I was hoping you would address this first because you were the chair of the communications committee for so long, and you know, we're involved in so much of it, but I know it hasn't been going recently. But I was just going to say, I know that a lot of that was done before we had a communications director. Now we have a communications director. So I guess I always thought that's why it got sunset, or was one of the reasons anyway.
Thank you. Commissioner Gossett.
Same comment. The Communications Committee, which I know the mayor served as chair for quite some time, was all previous to the hiring of our communication specialist in the city, and that's the reason it was sunsetted at the time.
Thank you. Anybody else? If not, we're going to go to the public. We'll start again with Tom Evans and Sturgis Dodge.
We have no comment. You're doing a great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Rick Perry, there's your chance. Focusing on the committees after law oversight as well as new committees.
Thank you. I do want to apologize for my mistake in referring to Mark Sanders rather than Mark Saunders in my earlier comments with respect to Mr. Dewey's email. But I
You're
stand by
fine.
my
Thank
comments.
you. Go ahead.
With respect to the code rewrite, I have heard no one mention the involvement of the Planning Commission in that process. And I realize that there was a Law and Oversight Committee, which may have viewed it from a broader perspective, but I would certainly encourage you and really hope that you will be seeking the advice from the Planning Commission on an ongoing basis with respect to the code rewrite, particularly as it relates to chapters 236 and 270. I think that's very important.
Rick, let me remind you and everybody else that we have had zero conversation on review of the zoning code. And I'm not sure everybody understands what is going on today. And so that's why at our November workshop, we will tackle that topic. So your comments today, we'll be mindful of those at our November meeting.
Okay, thank you. Again, just to reiterate that the Planning Commission has expressed a view that they would like to have ex officio members on the various committees, perhaps not necessarily all of them, but selectively those that certainly could impact their considerations. And Mr. Mayor, back in September, you solicited a number of people, including myself, for recommendations and suggestions for future agenda topics. And one of the things that I recommended to you was to consider the establishment of the City of Rehoboth Beach Ombudsman Oversight Panel, which I feel comes within the purview of your consideration of commissions and committees. And the purpose of that was to help facilitate resolution of issues and complaints by citizens and stakeholders of the City of Rehoboth with these various city departments and officials. And it is what I envisioned was very similar to what many federal and state agencies have in place and have had now for a number of years in response to concerns about from individuals about either entities that are regulated or various departments of government bodies with which they have an issue. And I do hope that you will all consider the possibility of looking at that with an open mind. And as I indicated to you back on September 9th, I'd be happy to provide you with a draft mission statement and a proposed policy.
Great. Thank you very much, Rick.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? Let's see. Walter Brittingham, please. On committees from after law oversight up to new committees. Anybody else? Let's see. Walter Brittingham. On committees from after law oversight up to new committees. Dropped off. All right, we're going to move on then. Thank you very much. What I'd like to do is talk, throw out some, bring up some mayor's draft policies for city committees. See if you have any discussion now or later. As you know, I've spoken out for a long time that my desire, I would like a commissioner, an elected official to chair each committee and have a citizen co-chair if they desire. But I would like the elected official to chair the committee. One of the reasons I want to do this is because I believe the responsibilities of the committee chair should include, but not be limited to, ensuring committee compliance with Freedom of Information Act, with respect to agenda language, conducting of meetings, talking of and creation of meeting minutes, reporting committee activity to the mayor and commissioners. These are things that just absolutely critical that we get right the first time. And I believe that the responsibility, again, should fall on the shoulders of the elected officials. Excuse me. I also believe the chair should ensure committee membership completes annual FOIA and ethics training. So that's a whole new thing anyhow, is requiring all committee members to take annually FOIA and ethics training that I'd like to enact. As far as formulas for membership, that's been bandied around a lot. And as you recall, John Dewey has a lengthy letter embedded in the agenda that articulates why he believes there's membership should come from within the city and not without. So there could be a formula for membership of in-town residents and property owners are the voting members of committees. Give them the first shot, but allow out-of-town members non-voting memberships. That's a possibility. And then we also need a formula for selecting members. Is that going to be decided by commissioners bringing forward names, going through the applications, or should the chair of each committee do that task? I'm just throwing these out now for your comment, including my thing that I have had put in front of the commissioners for years, and that is I believe that all the committees should act on behalf of the mayor and commissioners, and that their topics that they're going to look at should come in front of the commissioners, minimally for their awareness, but otherwise for the commissioners to have the awareness to be able to say they would like to help give input on it, or no, they would like to hold off on that topic, or no, they would like to take the topics on their own. So those are just some thoughts I'm throwing out, and like to entertain any feedback today as well as next meeting. We've got Commissioner Gossett.
Yeah, I just, I agree with many of the comments that you've made, Mayor, and I appreciate them. One of the things is that my last service time on the commission, I authored a committee handbook. And I think a couple of the issues that you've addressed are outlined in the handbook. And I don't know if other commissioners have had a chance to review that or not, but I'd be happy to send it out to look at it to refresh memories, or just create some new thoughts of folks, because the aspect of minutes and attendance, appointments, response to the public, what have you, and topics development are all addressed in the handbook. And I think that they certainly could be expanded upon or modified in some manner if need be. But I think that would be a baseline to start on.
Yeah,
I also think that in the future,
that's a good point. Thank you.
I also think in the future we should.
Wait, he wasn't done.
Patrick, go ahead.
Just a couple of things. Some things that I think that should be addressed also. The minimum and maximum number of members of a committee. If there should be term limits set in a committee membership, how people are reappointed and how people resign, that type of thing, just for future discussions. I'm finished.
Thank you. Now you're finished. Thank you. Commissioner Byrne, please.
Thank you. Yeah, Mayor, I agree too with with most of what you brought up, maybe all of what you brought up. And I like the way that you discussed membership, that it's open for discussion and you perhaps don't have a hard stance on it right now. The two committees that I'm most active in have out of town folks on it as voting members. And I'm going to continue to argue for that as we have this discussion in the coming weeks and months. These folks are stakeholders. The city of Rehoboth Beach is their city. They bring expertise, they bring background, they bring competencies, skill sets that don't always exist among residents only. And I think these are folks that have a real investment as a stakeholder in the future of our city and the quality of life. And I think if we're careful about screening who comes on, and we know that they bring a skill set that's very helpful to achieving the mission of that committee, that they should come on as a full voting member. And our committees are advisory to the Board of Commissioners. They're not making policy, they're not making rules, they are advisory. And so I'm going to continue to argue that non-residents, non-property holders should be committee members with a full vote.
Thank you, Commissioner Byrne. Commissioner Gay.
Yeah, I knew this would come up at some point, and one of the support documents on the agenda today may look familiar to those of you who were here last fall, because it was the comparison I put together then to basically show that all of our coastal communities, and the reason I limited it to the coastal communities is because nowhere else in the country that I know of has any non-resident, a person that is not a taxpayer or a resident of that city or town or municipality on a committee. So what I did was I used the Delaware coastal communities as a comparison, because of course we have the unusual policy of having non-resident voting, and so I wanted to see how open they may be in other ways. And what I found was, just like everywhere else in the country, our nearby towns have the policy of residents and property owners only. And I would say, by the way, that I do think that for committees, this is a little different with commissions. So there's a big difference here between, what we would allow for Planning Commission and Board of Adjustment and Parks and Shade Tree. But I would say with committees, I would be open to having a business owner, who is perhaps not a resident or not a property owner on a committee. Maybe we would limit it to one per, I don't know. But I think that would be an important stakeholder input to have where that may be. But otherwise, I have to just say, and this is what came to me last fall, in addition to seeing that basically no one else does this, I had a list at the time, and I think it's now like 110 or so people, residents and property owners in the city who had applied for committees. And frankly, I think it is sad. I think it is beyond sad that our own in-town stakeholders, our taxpayers, were prohibited from being on a committee and preference was given to someone outside the city. If we were to go begging, then maybe I could see it, although I will also say that I think every city and town in America does go begging. I mean, everywhere I know, there's like you see committees listed and you see there's a vacancy. So everywhere you go, people have a lot of commitment. So I'm not sure that even that would mean that we should include outsiders. But the fact that we have so many dedicated property owners, and to exclude them is a real shame. The other thing I want to say, just a repeat of what I had said last year, is nothing about including or limiting our committees to residents and property owners is meant to exclude anyone. If anything, it's meant to broaden, because you would have the core group, the voting members, be residents and property owners, and then others who have expertise are certainly welcome. And chances are their expertise would be related to maybe one agenda item that's being worked on, or something that's being worked on in a specific period of time, that once it's done, they probably wouldn't come because another area of expertise would be spoken about then. So they could come and go as needed, and their voices could be heard. But the core group that is recommending policy. They may not be acting in judicial roles. They may not be acting in legislative roles, but they are recommending policy. And I think I feel strongly about who those members should be, not to exclude anyone else, but just to frame the structure of the committee.
Thank you, Susan. Commissioner LeGray, please.
I agree completely with Commissioner Gay. I've had the opportunity to sit down in Ann Womack's office and spend some hours going through every single application that she has in her book. I am astounded at the quality of people who want to serve on our committees. Their credentials just blow me away. I haven't seen that many lawyers in the Friday afternoon saloon. It's just incredible, the number of people who are CPAs, PhDs, people who I've worked with didn't even know that they were holders of PhDs, masters in subjects that like astrophysics, and just blew me away. So I am really in favor of keeping eligible voters only on committees. And if we need expert advice, it should be on a piece by piece basis. And I understand the animal issues uses an advisor frequently, and he or she should be happy to help us, because if they're really interested in what they're doing, they would be happy to help us without having a means to vote. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, well, we've talked about policy. Let's give the public one more time to give opinion on this. And Tom Evans and Sturgis Dodge, are you still there?
Yes, I am. Sturgis is out feeding the birds, but I'm here. Nice discussion about membership. I hope you discuss it much more. Thank you, Susan Gay.
Thank you. Rick Perry.
I have no further comments at this time.
Thank you, Rick. Walter Brittingham.
Sturgis is out feeding the birds, but I'm here. Nice discussion about membership. I hope you discuss it much more. Thank you, Susan Gay.
Thank you. Rick Perry. Thank you, Rick. Walter Brittingham. All right, we'll move on. Thank you very much. Thank you. Now we get to commissioner announcements. And, oh, I'm sorry. We'll continue at the talk about committees at our November workshop. And we'll move on to commissioner announcements and comments. One comment I have is that the clear space documents, we're working on getting those on the online portal so that the public can access them. It's taken a while because the record is fairly extensive. So stay tuned. Any other commissioner announcements or comments tonight? If not, we'll move on to review future meeting dates. We have confirmed meeting dates on special meeting Tuesday, October 20th at 3 p.m. That is for special COVID meeting. We have a special meeting Thursday, October 29th in the matter of clear space to consider and decide several preliminary motions to dismiss that regarding the appeal of site plan approvals for clear space. There's 2 projects. We have a workshop meeting Monday, November 9th, 9 a.m. Well, actually, we have a special meeting Monday, November 9th at 9 a.m. That's to continue with the permanent compliance hearing. We have a workshop meeting immediately following that meeting. And then we have a special meeting Thursday, November 12th at 10 a.m. where we will be conducting an appeal to the final decision of the Planning Commission in the matters of the 2 clear space projects. Anything else from the commissioners? We've gone through citizen comment, and with that, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.